one breadwinner in South Africa is responsible for almost 5 up to 10 people. It means if you multiply the 72,000 people who lost their jobs, it means it's 72,000 multiplied by 10 people who will be losing something on the table every day. That is the danger and the unfortunate situation of corruption in our country. But I was not called to do that. Let me go back to my presentation. Our approach is a whole society approach. We feel that this can't be confined to government alone. We feel this fight against corruption is a fight that all of us must engage in. That will be business must play a role. Trade unions must play a role, because it's our members who are working in the public offices who at times assist to facilitate processes of corruption. The church must play its role. Our traditional leaders must play their role. So everybody must play a role, comrades. It should not be a question of President Ramaphosa alone. It should not be a question of the Premier or MECs alone. But it must be society that rise against corruption. Next slide. So it's on the basis of ethical leadership, the question of respect and all those good values that we are talking about, zero tolerance of corruption and sustainable programs to reduce corruption in our society. That's what we should be doing as a country. Next one. So you can skip this one as well, because I spoke about this one here. So we must ensure that we have a focused and effective inclusive communication strategy. Communication is very, very important. And this communication must start from home. We must talk about corruption inside our homes. When we get into the street, we must speak about corruption. When you get to church, you must speak about corruption. Teachers in the classroom must engage about corruption. So we must improve on how we speak about corruption, to an extent that we must even use our own languages to communicate the message and how evil and monstrous corruption is. Empower citizens in our country. Drive a value-based orientation of all our society. Our curriculum, Comrade, should be anchored around good values. We must, from grade 1, introduce our children to positive values. And our teachers should be able to do that. The training our teachers get at university, preparing them to teach already, should be embedded. We should embed the great values of the kind of society. Something is being done, but that message is not communicated enough to our citizenry. The good thing about, since President Ramaphosa took over, is that there are still thieves, there are still people who are stealing. But the possibility of being caught is there now. Unlike before. Before they were stealing with impunity, like they were not they were afraid to be caught. At least now, they do steal, they have not stopped. But they know as they are stealing, they will be caught. That's why we thank the SIU in particular for the great work that they are doing. We just call on the others as well, the NPA, to be quicker, to get them behind bars, to inspire society. So those are the areas that we are looking at. Awareness, I spoke about, education, prevention, and mobilization. We can go to the next one. So we need to mobilize society. That's what we spoke about. That's why we are here today, is to mobilize all of you. You must know that this thing is bad for me, and I must participate in it. Let's get to the next slide. So those are the values that we're talking about. Transparency. There must be transparency, comrades. When you issue out or you start a process of a tender, open it up to society. We want to see the whole process from the starting point of a tender. You don't have to close it in a boardroom. You must invite us to come and observe the discussions that are taking place there. Respect, very, very important. Reliability and all authenticity, all of those values we think we should promote. Let's go to the next one. Those are the messages I spoke about earlier. We can also jump this one. So that is basically how I'm concluding my presentation, to re-emphasize the question of together building a corruption-free society. And I think that's basically my side to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do it again. Thank you very much, Councillor Dolopi, for taking us through progress registered. Earlier on, the Premier spoke about the beauty not yet born. And I'm sitting here, I'm asking myself, because if you are not beauty, you are ugly. So does it mean we are ugly here? Now, this is what I'm saying. If you are here, character transformation, positive values that you raised, we really have to be up in arms against corruption. You were giving us both strategy and tactics. And in one of our meetings, as this meeting actually is a culmination of a month-long planning. And in our planning meeting, I quoted Sun Tzu, who said, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. But also tactics without strategy is noise before defeat. So we're happy that we are being given both strategy and tactics. And our Commander-in-Chief spoke to us about the execution, because if you have tactics and you are not executing them, you are hallucinating. So I'm afraid that when we leave here, we are going to be up in arms and action all the way. So I will ask Ntate Bogatsu to come and lead us in praying for the Premier, together with our religious leaders who led us this morning. Ntate Bogatsu, come and lead us, and immediately after that, we will take a clarity-seeking question, but also input. We will, excuse me? Okay, no, thank you. Let us deal with the issue of praying for the Premier, and then immediately after that, we will continue with our program. And Ntate Bogatsu, le religious leaders, Baba Nebalefa, this morning, help us.
The Holy Spirit must come down and take away the sin. The Holy Spirit must come down in Africa way. He said, Africa and Africa way. He said, in Africa way. He said, the Holy Spirit must come down in Africa way. He said. While we still standing, I just wanted to share this message It was directed to the Premier, but I know you will take the message to the Premier before we pray. I want to take this opportunity to appreciate the acting Honorable Premier Ntate Nono Maloyi for his kindness. Normally when people act in positions and it's time for that position to elapse, they will want the extension. But he has a kind heart that says, let us pray for the substantive Premier to come back. I just want to appreciate the kindness from the acting Premier. May the Lord God continue to bless his heart. We are going to pray, but before we do that, just want to read one verse from 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 5. I have heard your prayers. I have seen your tears. In Setswana it says, Ke utlwile morapelo wa gago, ke bone dikeledi tsa gago, bona ke tla go fodisa. Tla re rapele. Modimo ntate ka leina la Morena Jesu, Papa re a leboga. Mo letsatsi la gompieno Modimo o bone go tshwanela Morena, gore ka molomo wa the acting Premier, this special request ebe e tlhagisiwa in this event Modimo wa ka. Re a rapela mo nakong ya gone anong for the recovery Morena ya ga Premier Bushi Maape. Father, we believe gore lentswe la gago ga le nke le tswa fela le be le boa le sa dira tiro. Mo tshware Morena a teta fole ene re a dumela Modimo ka the right time e beilweng ke wena Modimo wa ka o tla ba boetse mo tirong ya ga ka leina la Morena Jesu Papa re a rapela. Amen.
Thank you very much, religious leaders, for standing in the gap. We will be watching closely as the Premier is recovering and be healed in accordance to our prayer and our intercession. Let me at this point in time call Councillor Lewis to come also and have a bite on what Councillor Dolopi spoke about. They are our councillors. They are talking about the work streams and the progress, work achieved, the focus, and the progress registered. Over to you, Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you, Program Director. I wanted to congratulate the Premier or the acting Premier on what he said. I have to say I usually get very bored and very impatient in that part of the conference which we spend much too much time on in South Africa, going through the dignitaries' speeches. They all sound to me like they got them off Google. You know, the speech to the anti-corruption conference. But the Premier really spoke from his heart, I thought, and I particularly appreciated his candid admission that you have problems in this province. You have huge problems of corruption. Now you can take some comfort, if you like, from the fact that all the provinces have problems. But the provinces are very important. I mean, the provinces provide health. The provinces provide education. Go and see what's happening to the health system in Gauteng, and you'll see what the costs of corruption are. And the Premier mentioned, and I had an opportunity a few weeks ago, and in my previous job in Corruption Watch, we did some work in the villages on the Platinum Belt in your province. You know what the Premier said about this is probably the richest patch of real estate in the world, this province. And you go and look at the state of those villages in the Platinum Belt, and you've got to really be ashamed. You know, it's a shame on all of South Africa that those villages look like they do. And when I was in Corruption Watch, an old person from one of the villages came to see us with title deeds going back 100 years. And she said this was our land, and we gave it up to the mining companies. in exchange sometimes for shares in the company, in exchange for cash in the company. And that was looked after for us by the province, and we don't know what happened to it. Well, let me tell you, I don't know what happened to it either. But I know that there were hundreds of millions of rands, and I mean hundreds of millions of rands, maybe billions of rands, deposited by the mining companies, and I know they were deposited into those accounts, and they are now empty. And nobody knows where they went to. So if you really want to do something, try and find out. And it didn't happen yesterday. I'm talking about stuff that happened 15, 20 years ago, maybe. Go and find out who took that money, because it was your responsibility to look after that money on behalf of the villagers who gave up their land to the mining companies. And, you know, really, as I say...
Now let's talk about those where you have vacancy.
Sorry, I'm not... But you have to be, we have to all be really ashamed of ourselves that those villagers in the Platinum Belt, for whom, as I say, possibly even billions of rands were invested in accounts controlled by this province, and those accounts are now empty, and their villagers are as poor as ever they were, even poorer. So there's a job for you. But I'm particularly pleased that that you've been the first province to put up your hand to involve yourself in these road shows. You know, I actually grew up in this town. In fact, my grandfather grew up in this town. So even though there were very different provinces and very different towns then, even when I grew up, it's close to my heart. I haven't been here for a long time, and it's a very much bigger town and flasher-looking town than it used to be. But it is a real pleasure to be here and to see how much it's changed, and to see how you're willing and putting up your hands to fight corruption. I just want to take you through a couple of the slides, and this is a very practical session. It will tell you how we are working and what work you're doing. So if you could just put up the first slide. And this is really the only slide I want to put up. There are a couple of others, but I'll just explain these as we go on. You know, as I think has been explained to you, we got our mandate, the council got its mandate from three sources. The one is from the President's letter of appointment. The other is from the Zondo Commission, and the third is from the National Anti-Corruption Strategy. The National Anti-Corruption Strategy is a thick 80-page document with a lot of detail that I hope is handed out to every public official and politician in the province, and it's something really worth familiarizing yourself with. I'm sure there'll be things you disagree with, things you think we left out, but it's a substantial document and a substantial strategy for fighting corruption. And one of the things that it didn't do was it didn't decide what institution should own this strategy, what institution should be responsible for the implementation of the strategy. And the second work stream that you see there, the anti-corruption institutional architecture, is the part of of our work. It's a part of the work that I convene that looks at the number of institutions we have for fighting corruption, of which there are many, some of which, like the SIU, we can be really proud of, others like the Crime Intelligence Division of the South African Police, we can be really ashamed of. But there are a range of institutions responsible for combating corruption. And so many people feel that we don't need a new institution. But when we examine those institutions, we see that some of them have real difficulties, and were really set back, particularly during the era of state capture. An organization like the Hawks, an organization like the NPA, these organizations were really gutted during state capture and are still struggling to get themselves up on their feet. An organization, I said, like the SIU seems to be functioning well and is probably our leading organization against corruption. But we had to look at all these organizations and decide what it is that we needed to do with this architecture of institutions. And so we've looked at that, and we've seen that there are actually, no matter how many organizations there are some very serious gaps in our fight against corruption. Public education. There's no organization in the country responsible for public education. There's no public organization in the country responsible for mobilization. There's no organization in the country responsible for systemic corruption. And by systemic corruption, I mean corruption in an institution that is so common and so pervasive that you can't believe that you have a problem with bad apples. The whole tree is clearly rotten. If you look at as I said, this is an example that I'll use again. If you look at the Gauteng Department of Health, and you see how much corrupt conduct there is in that department, you've got to believe that there's something wrong with the way that department manages its affairs, that it gives the opportunity for so many individuals, both inside the department and outside the department, in the private sector, to steal from that department. It's got to be a problem with the way they manage their supply chain, with the way they manage their appointments, and those are the kind of things that the anti-corruption institutional architecture is looking at. It's deciding which organizations should be responsible for lifestyle audits, which organizations ought to be responsible for receiving declarations of interest from public officials as well as political leaders. And that's the sort of work that the anti-corruption institutional architecture is doing. The communications work stream, you've heard a lot from both Matlosana and Nkosana. You can't fight corruption by imagining, and the Premier was very clear in this message that you gave to us, by imagining that it's the responsibility of politicians alone. In fact, I'm afraid to say that politicians are often the problem rather than the solution. And you have to you have to mobilize the public. The public have to be part of this effort. In my previous work in a civil society organization called Corruption Watch, that's almost all we did, was to constantly mobilize the public. You know, one of the things we've got going for us in South Africa is that people are still angry about corruption. They haven't accepted it as a way of life. If you go to a country like India, it's a tax. People know they have to pay a tax every time they get a public service. And the tax is what is called what we would normally call bribery. South Africans pay a lot of bribery, but they haven't accepted that this should be their way of life. And that's what the communications team and the communications work stream is doing. It's keeping this pot of anger boiling. It's keeping this pot boiling where the citizens demand accountability. The third work stream is public procurement. And, again, the Premier stressed, often used the word tender in his speech. And you all, I'm sure, know the famous story of the notorious American bank robber who was asked by the judge why he robs banks. And he looked back at the judge and said, "That's easy, it's because where the money is." And why is public procurement the most serious corruption conduct in the country? Well, it's because it's where the money is. And it attracts all sorts of flies to it. And there is a strong sense in South Africa that we haven't got the public procurement system right. Nkosana mentioned the importance of transparency, and that's one of the things that we are going to be recommending, is that firstly, all tenders happen online, so there doesn't have to be personal contact between the person bidding for the work and the person providing the work. Secondly, that when it's online, it has to be online and available to everybody to examine and judge whether the tender is fair or not. And so a lot of work is going on public procurement in cooperation with the National Treasury, and that's the subject matter of the third work stream. The fourth work stream is whistleblower protection support. And you know, one of the important things of public communication is that there is no combating corruption without whistleblowers. You just can't get off the ground without whistleblowers. You know, it's not like murder. You can see the dead body when somebody has been murdered. There's no dead body left, even if corruption kills. There's no dead body left when two people get together in secret and they rig a public procurement tender. It's done in confidence. And you need somebody to tell you that I know that they met at this game park a few weeks ago, a few weeks before the tender was issued. And I know who paid for that, the weekend they spent at the game park. And guess what? That's the person who won the tender. You need somebody to tell you that. But it's dangerous. You know, in Corruption Watch, people used to report corruption to us, wanted us to take it up, and we told them that your life will change when you report serious corruption. I mean, many of you will know, again, going back to my favorite example of the Gauteng Department of Health, everybody knows what happened to a woman named Babita Deokaram in Johannesburg, where she was assassinated for exposing corruption at Tembisa Hospital that was worth about R1 billion was stolen from Tembisa Hospital. And she was killed for her efforts. Now the Hawks have arrested and they've already appeared in court the people who actually did the shooting. But they're not the big corruptors in this process. The people who paid them are the people who benefited from Babita's death. And the Hawks and the SIU and whatever agencies are responsible, because I know the SIU have done work on this as well, have to find out who those were. And for a layperson like me, it looks kind of obvious, you know. There were about 15 firms that were set up a few weeks before they won tenders to supply medical equipment. One was owned by a 23-year-old. You need to look at who it is who benefited from the corruption. But they are dangerous people and the stakes are high. And so what we're looking at there is what is the best way to incentivize whistleblowing? Should whistleblowers get a share of the proceeds that the Hawks get back or the SIU gets back? Should they receive a national honor for blowing the whistle on corruption? How do you have the society treat them not as impimpis but as heroes? These are the ways to encourage whistleblowers, but you also need to be able to protect them. You know, people talk about the witness protection services. Well, they're important, but they're not nearly good enough. And we are thinking of an agency that will be generously funded, that will support whistleblowers when they lose their work, that will give them psychological support, that will give them legal support. Because the road of a whistleblower is hard, but but it's absolutely essential in fighting corruption. And that's what the fourth work stream is doing. The fifth work stream is looking at legislation, and particularly at the question of transparency. A lot of the recommendations of the other work streams, particularly work streams 2, 3, and 4, presuppose changes in national legislation. And this is something that has to be done quickly, despite the fact that it usually takes a very long time. We are hoping that with the President's support, it will be done quickly and expeditiously. And it is looking at issues like, how do you amend the legislation to provide for transparency in public procurement? How do you amend the legislation to provide for transparency in public appointments? Again, the Premier mentioned the question of appointing public officials, leading public officials. It is the root of corruption. To put the wrong person in the right place is really what stands at the bottom of our corruption. In the state capture era, it was the then President's entire contribution to state capture was making sure that people who would be easily corrupted were the leaders of state-owned enterprises, on the boards of state-owned enterprises, in the executive suites of state-owned enterprises, where necessary in the cabinet itself. And these people in turn appointed their own people into critical positions. When I was in Corruption Watch, we received a lot of reports from the Free State about the appointment of officials who were responsible for procurement in tiny little Free State dorpies. And every time the appointment had the fingerprints of the Premier, the then Premier of the Free State, all over those appointments. And that's one of the things that the transparency work stream will look at. And then finally, there's the monitoring, evaluation, reporting, and learning. Nkosikazi Mhlawuli mentioned the importance of this. Again, a point that I've made before, that it's very difficult to know whether you're succeeding or failing in the fight against corruption. Has there been less corruption despite all your efforts? Who knows? Because it all happens in secret. And so you have to devise a way of working out whether your strategies are actually working. So that might sound like a very technical work stream, but it's very important, because it's also important to learn from what is a success and what is a failure. I mean, as I said, I learned in Corruption Watch that if you devise a method of transparently and fairly making appointments, you will succeed in stamping out half the corruption in any institution, in any province, in any government department, in any private sector organization. And so you need to learn those lessons. What are the effective strategies, and what are the strategies that have proved ineffective? I mean, there are lots of people who believe, for example, that the only effective strategy are orange overalls. Well, yes, orange overalls are very, very important to deter people from being engaged in corruption. But discipline in the workplace and the exercise of disciplinary procedures in the workplace is also a very important strategy. Maybe it's more important. When you see officials from the provinces and the national government and local government, some of whom have been suspended for 12 years on full pay, you realize that there's no deterrence for engaging in corruption. In fact, if that's all that's going to happen to you, it's a positive encouragement to engage in corruption. The guy who was on suspension for 12 years, while he was on suspension, he got a law degree, his golf handicap decreased, he got his salary every month. That kind of thing has to stop. And a lesson that we've learned there is that because of the poor implementation of disciplinary procedures in the public sector, people feel that there's no risk engaged in corruption. Everybody knows that court cases and prosecutions take years and are very expensive. But these should not take years, and they're not expensive. And people need to be punished for corrupt conduct and unethical conduct. And I say that as a former unionist myself, but it's very important, and that's what the 6th work stream is doing. So this is all the work that we're doing. We've proceeded quite far. We're speaking to stakeholders, and this meeting today is an important engagement, and I wish that I had the copy of the Premier's speech, but as I said earlier, I think the speech came from the heart rather than from Google, so it's probably not written down anywhere. But these engagements are very important public interfaces with us, and it's a matter of some pride that this is the first province to have that, and I hope we'll be back with you again, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, MEC. I saw you are the only one who was able to do it, but let's do it again. Thank you very much, Councillor Lewis, for that presentation. I'm going to quote from Proverbs 11 verse 14, and I'll tell you why I do that. Where there is no wise guidance, the people will die. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. I'm going to say it again. Where no wise guidance is, people die. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. And I understand that each and every province do have a representation in the advisory council. And I believe that they will be giving wise guidance. I'm saying this because Councillor Lewis said we must go out and look for the billions that were deposited from the mining company. I don't know in which account, and I don't want to say it. Maybe during the engagement, Councillor Lewis will lead us on that talk. But you being there as councillors, you will help us to know as to what happened to that money. Thank you very much. I will humbly, the table of scribes asked me to please request the audience to keep it down because they can't hear presenters here and they don't want to take note of things that were not said here. So please help us there. We are moving to questions and inputs. And just before that, maybe I need to say this. Ushers will help us. We are not going to break for tea because we don't have time to waste time. Not that tea break will be time wasting, but councillors will help us. I mean, ushers, they will help us as we go out, grab a cup of tea, and come back. We are not going to have tea on the foyer. We will have tea here inside the hall as we continue with our program. So, ushers, please ensure that our delegates do have tea and bread as it is already prepared. And I give it to no MC ole, we really go wasteful expenditure ka maroto ra rekile ha jiwa. So ke kopa gore re tla tswa ka ditulo tsa rona. We are going to be quick in this session, and there are roving mics here. Ushers also will help us with roving mics. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take these 2 rows to see if there's any question or input. And I'm not going to be long, and I will move to another row. Now, if your row ki movile mo go yone, a ke sa buela go go yone. So ha ona le potso re botse ka gore maybe ka mo le batla botsa potso ba go provoke re tla bona lateri. So I see ki simol. I'm going to take 3 hands from this side. 3 hands, there's 1. Thank you very much. And then, come on, line in the pelite. Avona le puso. 1 are progressive. Come on, line here, come on. 1. So we're gonna have 3 questions or input. Please tell us your name. Are you from civil society? Are you representing business formation, or are you representing public sector? Tell us who you are, what formation are you representing, and please just go straight to what you want to ask. Let us not preamble. Let us say what we want to say quickly. Over to you, my man.
Thank you, Program Director. My name is Mukwe Masekwa. I'm from the community of Hamutlata from the Ditsobotla Municipality. Chairperson, I'm just quite aware that municipalities are still going to come. However, I am concerned that some municipalities are going down the drain due to corruption, and yet our focus maybe currently is at the provincial national government and investigations from Zondo Commission. However, why can't maybe I suggest that our law enforcement agency that they group in maybe the investigations from our intelligence to save some of our municipalities. I am speaking as a concerned person from the Ditsobotla municipalities. I thank you.
Thank you very much. There was a hand here. Oh, there is a hand. Oh, thank you very much. Your name, which formation are you representing?
Dumelang bagaetsho. Ke Reverend Chomi go tloga ko Taung, Greater Taung Municipality. Ke na le question e one kapa tshwaelo e one fela e ke batlang go e botsang. Most of the time ga re na le ntho tsa go tshwana le tse, we call baruti to do what and what and what. So my problem is re batla gore corruption e mo fatshe, but ga re bitsa baruti re ba bitsa the time go leng thata, but nako e go leng alright, we don't take time gore re kreye baruti. So my question ke gore re le baruti re rata go thusa our government. So gore re thuse government ya rona re le baruti, can't you do this in maybe in our municipality? Re be le the groups tsa baruti tse leng gore re tle go e kgetha go bereka le masepala kapa go bereka le premier gore ene bone ba le babedi or ba le bararo, because of most of the time even if baruti ba sa ibui they've got a problem ya ntwa gore you call us always ha gona le problem, but they get stipend and what, but rona ga re kry next. So ntwe ba idutsi le baruti ba sa ibui. So if re ka etsa gore let's get 2 or 3 ba ba tla berekang le masepala, re itse gore at the end of the month they've got something. I think gore baruti ba tla ema ka maoto just fela iska nna gore ra ba bitsa fela when we've got problem tsa leboga.
Thank you. Ke kopa gore ba ba botsang dipotso re ba protect, and the only way to protect them ke gore when they ask question we allow them to, please. And then the last hand, Premier, I think we will allow you to lead us in addressing the issues as they came. And I know that in your speech, some of these concern you highlighted them, but I will allow you to do that again. Ntate.
Okay. Dumela magaso. Ke ntate Makafane, ke tswa ke le mokgatlong wa THP ka tiro ke mo Tshepong Hospital. Ke ne ke batla gore ke lebogetse Premier by the way ana addressa ka teng ke mahoko a mantle. Concern ya ka ke batho ba ba go godimo akere corruption start with your mind and bitla mo phelo then ke corruption ya small. Ke ne ke kopa gore mo nakong e tlang if ntate Premier no ntate Maloi o dirile corruption ba gaetso ke kopa se fele sa gore ba re goge re gore re ba thege se ba se dirileng gore ha ba dirile molato a nne molato wa bone ba ske ba lobbya on another organization re tsoka strata ra go ba binela gore re ba protect if that thing here we ka fail go tlo correction e tlo go fail. Thank you.
I will then allow Honorable Premier to share the words of wisdom with us. He will come here. And by the way, Premier, when you went out, we prayed for our Premier as you requested. We would have loved to do it in your presence, but we realized that you were busy with other governance issues outside. Thank you.
No, I think you are correct that in our speech earlier on we did talk about the work that we are doing, not only at a provincial level, including at a local level. And we specifically mentioned the Tsobotla. And in that we even said there is a team established by the provincial commissioner, a team from provincial headquarters, which is now stationed in Ditsobotla for the next 3 weeks. And I even made a call to everybody, including the civil society, if they have anything or any suspicion of corruption that took place in that municipality in particular, they must go and provide that team with information. I went further to say, I had a session with SIU where they presented a report to myself about the work that they've done in the Northwest Province. And subsequent to that, together with SIU, I said there is about 7 other municipalities which I think we must put on the radar, and that there is a need to communicate with both the minister and the president in order for us to get a proclamation for the SIU to start doing its work. So our focus is not only at a provincial level and at a national level. We are paying attention to what is happening at the local level. I made an example for, about 2 municipalities in Bojanala, about appointments of the senior positions and so on. So I thought I went to town about the work that we are doing in municipalities, but I must apologize to the participant. Maybe he was not yet here, but I did talk on those issues. This past Sunday, I was here in Matlosana, meeting with religious leaders from the Bechuana Methodist Church in South Africa, from all over the province. They were here in Matlosana and I was there. Amongst others, we were talking about corruption and all other related matters. This coming Saturday, due to other commitments, I will not be able to go there. I've delegated MEC Molapisi. He will be in Muntsiwa Stadium in Mahikeng. We are also meeting with religious leaders to talk about these issues. So we are not only going to religious leaders when there are challenges and so on, we are interacting with them on a regular basis. I even said when I was in Matlosana, which I think I must repeat here for your benefit, Moruti, that we might be MECs, we might be premiers and so on, but we also have our own churches. Our own churches where we go and worship every Sunday. So if we don't come to your church every Sunday, it is because I'm not a member of your church. I'm a member of Church X. But if you invite me to your church, I will come to your church. But I'm under an obligation to go to my church every Sunday. So it can't be that the minister of religion will say to us that you are not coming to us, you only come to us towards elections or when there are issues and so on. No, no, that is not the case. I said, if you invite me, I'll be able to say to my pastor, that pastor, this Sunday I will not come to church. I've been invited to another church in my capacity as the acting premier, so I'm going there. I'll be back the next Sunday and so on. So that must be understood, that we are also human beings like yourselves. We also have our own churches where we must go. And we must also pay our own disura in our own churches. So that's the understanding which we must all have as ministers of religion and so on. But if you invite us, we will come. That's why we're in Matlosana this Sunday. That's why we're in Mahikeng on Saturday. And I said to MECs and everybody, they must make themselves available, not only to churches, including to other structures of civil society. When we are invited, we must go there and interact with them, because we are MECs and ministers, premiers and so on of the Northwest Province. So we must go in everywhere and anywhere, anytime, by the way. Now we agree that as citizens, we must play an active role in fighting corruption. Because we will never win corruption when all of us, we think that it must only be fought by leaders. Our responsibility is to come to meetings, we complain, after that meeting we sit down, we wait for the next meeting. So play an active role. Where you see that there is a corruption happening, whether it's by a certain leader and so on, go and report that corruption. But what is key, because you know in politics, some other people are saying politics is a dirty game. One of the things that we do, people play dirty as well in politics. When we report these things, it must be genuine things. You must have facts and so on. You don't go and report a person because you want to destroy that person politically. You want to tell lies about that person and so on. Let's not do that. So anybody, if you think that the Renono Maloi, and so on, has committed acts of corruption and so on, get all the necessary information, give it to the police, and the police must act. We are going to monitor them on a daily basis. I'm happy that at least now we are interacting with the provincial commissioner almost every week, just to give me an update on what is happening and so on. So it's a more important on that. But at the same time, I've said to the police in conclusion, that as people come and report these things and so on, where we find that others are just wasting our time, they are lying about other people and so on, we must act against those individuals. Yeah. Who come, tell lies, we spend state resources on things that do not exist. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Once again, thank you for the response re leboga mo primiri tonakgolo go arabela matshwenyego a rona mo holong. And maybe just to tell the House that Office of the Premier do have a Provincial Anti-Corruption Forum, which I believe it must begin to engage the provincial councillor. And in that forum, it has got representation from business formation, representation from civil society, inclusive of all the organizations that you may think of, and also representation from government. It's like a three-legged pot where we raise issues like those that have been raised here. So, like I said earlier on, that this is a culmination. The meeting of today, it's a culmination of what have been happening behind the scene. And all that it was being in partnership with Office of the Premier and provincial members of Provincial Anti-Corruption Forum, so that we must have this engagement as it was instructed. So thank you very much, Ntate Premier, for doing that. We are continuing with our program. We are now going to hear messages of support. I'm going to call two presenters now to come and give us messages of support in the fight against corruption. Renale Khosia Ronafa, Khosi Mabalane, who is from House of Traditional Leaders in the Northwest. So kitlile go kopa Khosi ya rona ke a itse Khosi magosi ga emisiwe ke mongwe le mongwe ke filwe seralase gore ka tlotlo ke go kope Khosi Mabalane ga ke na kgomo mongwame eo nka go nang yona ha o ema mme ke kopa fela gore ke se ka re ke emisa Khosi ke re ke kopa gore Khosi a tle go bua le rona a re ke ropeleng Khosi ya rona matsogo le maoto re ka ema ka maoto go motlotla ke le aparankwe gape Khosi nkabe ke itse go boka nkabe ke go boka mme ke kopa gore o re ne molaetsa wa thotloetso mmogo re le baagi ba province ya Bokone Bophirima.
Ka leboga motsamisa tiro ba ga etso tla ke tse tlotlo ke le dumediseng lotlhe mo primary di MEC tsa etso tsotlhe tse di tlotlegang, members of civil society, our fellow councillors ba ba representing Anti-Corruption Forum Strategy, ba tlotlegi botlhe di mayor ma councillara ke le dumedisa lotlhe ka tlotlo. Gantsi motsamisa tiro ka ba botsa gore a Khosi ga amogela mors ba itseng mo segosing Khosi o kera ga o e fela go Khosing o sa tshwara se. So a ke wa tlo botsa argument nna gore a ke corruption e seo a tshwantse re declare se re sa amogelang na is it corruption? That's an argument we have mo Khosing ka gore rona jaaka ke le motlatsa modula stilo ntlo ya dikgosi. It's more of a statutory position. So Premier na ke tla agree gore re tshwantse re declare. The reason why ke re alo go go bontsha transparency mo leadership in bagaetso. We must lead by example. Re le botsadi re le bogosi go botlhokwa gore re etelle pele ka ditiro. Go la countries tse di tshwanang le Singapore di kgona go lwantsha corruption ka gore a very senior minister was arrested o apere orange, and I think until le rona mo South Africa re bontshwa gore re lwantsha corruption so ntse re bone our senior leaders ba apere orange. Until that happens, I don't think we are fighting this corruption battle. But Kere Premier, we duly support the fight against corruption. I'm very privileged to serve more entity. I started my commitment ka structures anti-corruption ka 2012. And we were quite disappointed, Horokare. Previously, leadership politically supported this quest for anti-corruption. Mari re itumela premier remalui hore o kare re atosolosa ntwa e. And I think from a national perspective, we also applaud the president because he had for his cause and dedication to fighting corruption. We spend a lot of money ka state capture reporting. And kitsa holen tate zondo kwa lente. Ga senyana kwa ka state capture. We should be seen continuing the quest of fighting corruption fully and dedicate this. So on behalf of the House of Traditional Leaders in Kwesa, we support corruption, and we will be championing and we will be the ambassador to the corruption on behalf of the House of Traditional Leaders. Babukoni Bupirima. Kama fuka ba gaito ra leboga re tshegetsa strategies ka leboga.
Thank you very much. This time it is the Premier who led us. Yeah. Thank you, Premier. We served together in the Provincial Anti-Corruption Forum, and Rialeboga go tla molaetsa wa thotloetso ntate Tolo nang khopotsa fela gore le rona ba re dira mananeo khosi o bua la bofelo ka gore khosi ya fetsa go bua gone o tshwantseng a bue go bua baruti fela morago ga khosi ka gore baruti ba tsa tshwaro. So re tla itlhokomela le naneo leo ntate Tolo Rialeboga. And then Kitlokopa Ntate Fani Kaba from Busa and Epilepsy South Africa representative. Immediately after Ena, Ritlokra message of support from civil society by Professor Dintwe. Professor Dintwe is a former Inspector General of Intelligence, independent researcher from Governance and Forestry in Forensic Investigation, Research Supervisor, University of South Africa. Immediately after the message of support from Busa, we will then listen to the message of support from civil society. Ntate Fani, over to you.
Thank you, Program Director. Without waste of time, let me just also say all protocol observed. By so saying, everyone. Premier, talking from the tummy, you threw us out. You threw us out to be academic about this subject. I said, no, I had to realign because you spoke from the tummy and you gave me goosebumps. I'm standing here from an organized business. This, you remind me, I wish I would have rewinded the time. I used to be the provincial chairperson of Black Management Forum here. And we were one of the strongest branch of Black Management Forum, which we even, just like Khosi, from the capacitation, opportunities, the collaboration with the province. Now, these are black professionals. We've got accountants, people qualified in different fields that are members of Black Management Forum, which is an organization about transformation as we come from the history of transforming the landscape of business. Premier, can you believe we contributed, we wanted to participate, to partner, collaborate with the province, to donate well-qualified finance people to sit on your governance structures, particularly to deal with issues of corruption, because these people will be members of your audit committees. And you would be creating a space of leadership, of capacitation, of these, if I'm not mistaken, you've got 24 municipalities in the province. 22, so maybe that. Yeah, And we know when the AG brings these reports, what comes out of the AG reports. So this is the contribution your business people from a collaboration point of view, capacitation point of view. These are the resources that you don't necessarily have to pay for them, but to enhance governance into it. So as a message of support there, let us look at those. Let's revive those kind of thing, of opportunities of looking at collaboration, capacitation of these important oversight structures. I also stand here as a board member of Compensation Fund. In that structure, we do oversight visits. Not long I was in Vryburg. There is a program where we give a lot of money for Compensation Fund extension. It's called Strengthening Civil Societies Programs. This thing started in communities as advice centers. Some of them don't know, they don't exist anymore. But they are still getting some monies. You could see these things during the transition. They were advising forced removals by the farmers on people living in the farms. So there are centers that were supposed to advise accordingly. But some of them no more exist. So I'm saying as it takes two to tango, I also liked when you say you're going to conduct and pay visits on the other side of the table, because it takes two to tango. Do that, Premier. You've got the support of all of us in that. Because the word used here today was pandemic from the Honorable Speaker, cancer. This corruption is a serious cancer for all of us. And it's a system issue. It was said it's a societal issue, but I want to take it even more than that. It's bigger than all of us. And as an individual, we are also systems, operating within bigger systems. So, few things that we can do together with you, Premier, it is make the environment conducive for all of us to do our little bit. Because that's basically what you can do from where you sit. The conducive environment that can make us work with you. Allow us to be a medicine dose that can kill this corruption cancer. At least let us create a society here. You know, I wish every year, because this is an annual event, all of us that are here, we could be having a plate where when we leave, we put our fingerprints in it. We must be held accountable. We cannot, you said you're tired of meetings, conferences, you need action. But that scared me that you're not going to join anything that is act and acting. And I just got so scared. But we're not in that action. We are wanting to do something against this corruption. All of us will win. My final word of support and advice at this very moment is starting now, today, that we must have those, something like a register, a pledge, that even will embarrass you. One day we will show you that on the 31st of August 2023, you signed with us. Your name is here, your signature is here. And this community should be the one, as Ndatuela Nabua, rather we sing to you embarrassing. So because we must be deterrents. Let the consequence management report, even in the country, and a lot of cases, build a consequence register of some sort, Premier. You gave us so much hope. And in conclusion, your zero tolerance to this. Always, as we said, there's a speech coming from the head and there's a speech coming from the tongue. It's like a sermon. It can't be repeated. And that touches our hearts. You just touched our hearts. You made us do serious introspection in our lives. If you can have converted one today, don't worry. You can count on me. I am converted. all things you have said. Even they disappoint you, all of them. So, Premier, let us all talk about the possibilities of investments in this rich province of resources. You spoke about beneficiation. That is manufacturing, creating jobs. Actually, the 53% should be like the Netherlands, 3% unemployment rate. Because you've got it. You've got to manufacture there. Yeah. So, corruption causes the price of the item 10 times, Premier. Because the value chain, it's long, of people that must get a cut on a simple tanker that supplies water to a school. The other one is his truck, the other one found the deal, the other one made you go to the MEC concern. Now that price of a 10,000 liters of water becomes 8,000 a truck to give the basic service of water. Premier, you've got our support. Let us know. We're raising our hands. Let us know where we can come to the party. We wish everyone who's here best of luck. Our leadership in this work. Let us hold hands. Let's make the circle bigger. Let's identify each other that sings your song and join the chorus. I thank you, Premier.
We will give it to both of you after.
Ireke leboge mo primary wa bokone bophirima premier, the words acting, deputy do not exist in my vocabulary. Tona kholo ke tona kholo ke be ke leboge le ba o tsamayang le bone di MECs tsa province ya rona e khanyang e nang le di minerale e humileng e kopele mo go tlhomolang pelo. Now, an Englishman will normally start his speech by a quotation from somewhere. So normally they will start by saying, from the Marxist point of view. That's how English people will start their conversation. An Afrikaans speaking gentleman will normally start with a grappie. So it will be a joke that he would have heard from a braille somewhere. But a black man always starts, a black man like myself, will normally start by apologizing. Sometimes they even apologize for things that they do not have control over. They will apologize about weather. Sorry that you are here and it's hot. Let me apologize to you, Mr. Premier. I'm just apologizing for something that I don't have control over, that you are late for your next meeting. I'm only saying this because I'm going to keep my address and my message of support very short because I'm respecting your time. Now, the organizers struggled to write in the program as to who I am. So my name is very long, but nice and sweet as Kamamarudindwe. Now, they've written a lot of things, that I'm a former Inspector General of Intelligence, that I'm an academic, I'm a researcher, I deal with a lot of things. But they missed a very critical point, that I'm a son of the soil. So I'm coming from this province, and we are coming back home to assist the province. That is the message that I want to bring forth today. So I'm from a place called Setlagoli. It's actually the Premier, 79 kilometers west of where your office is based. That particular village between Vryburg and Mahike. Professor Makanya will be speaking at a particular point. Maybe he will touch on what community engagement means. So when we are at the national government, or we are academics, we are the intelligentsia, we are whoever, there is one issue that they consider before they promote us. And that is called community engagement. And the question is very simple. What are you doing for your own village, for your own neighborhood, for your own province. That is community engagement. So we are coming back, and I'm doing this message, and I should not be seen as a person from Gauteng, although I come from the University of South Africa, but I'm the son of the soil. So, in the invitation, and earlier, yesterday or so, we were told to send the presentations, and I refused to do it for a reason that you risk that we could be sitting here until 6 o'clock in the evening when we've got an academic to come and give a message of support. I don't want to do that. But also, I was going to repeat what the councillors would have told us about that. Honorable Mhlauli, there are two words that they left out in Setswana about corruption. There's also buhwene. There is also butsukunape. But we are giving these nice names, and we shouldn't. We should call a mole a mole. So, corruption, it's theft. We are giving it a nice name with different elements, with different people from the SIU will tell you that when people are committing corruption, there should be an unlawfulness, there should be intention, there should be whatever. But there is a new element. There's a new element to that. And you know what is that element? It is called excitement. You know, there are people who are committing corruption today. So they're wealthy. They're very rich. They're no longer using it. They're no longer using it to acquire the means of production. They're only doing it because they want to show us that there is a high level of impunity, and that we can just do it and get away with it. I don't know where the SIU people are sitting. Yeah. So you must add that when you go to court and say that he did it because of excitement over and above the elements of that particular criminal act. Let's call it for what it is. My role today is very easy. And you know why it's easy? It's very difficult to come, that the program director, to come and talk about corruption. Because when you talk about that, about corruption, you will normally go off tangent with what the administration of that time believes in. So that's why I'm able to define what corruption is, that hold. It is because the premier indicated it. And he said that we are corrupt. So as much as he was pointing a finger at us, 3 fingers were pointing at him. We never get that message that the premier, wherever we go. Because people will say, they'll spin doctor it. And they will never say that we are corrupt. They will never say that we've got a high level of unemployment. They will never say that. But I'm very excited because we have transversed. So when I was looking at the program, I realized that we have transversed a time of problematizing this problem of corruption. So we are no longer here. If you listen to the councillors, if you listen to the premier, they said that we've talked about it. We know what corruption is. Mem Mhlauli, you said that they talked about corruption in their own language. So we've done that. We understand what corruption is. But I realized in the program, Mr. Program Director, that we are at a stage of implementation. Somewhere in the program, they said that they're going to introduce the councillors, but they're going to deal with the issue of implementation. And when you deal with implementation, from us as the civil society, from us as the academia, we should stop making a lot of noise and not implementing. Mr. Premier, our message of support to you is that we offer you action research. No longer this thing of big English, ties, and talking. So we give you action research. Action research is very important because it talks about the policy realignment in terms of what are you going to do. So we know our problem. We've prognosed ourselves. We've diagnosed ourselves. This is a stage of applying the medication now. Hey, but I can't leave this stage without also going to this fact. So corruption is a mathematical formula. And it is based on a principle of bottomness. Corruption is a multiplication of fraud, theft, and malfeasance. But it is also an addition of misrepresentation and forgery. Second mathematical sign. It is a division of integrity. So you divide, you divide the issue of integrity. But it is a subtraction, I can't pronounce this word. MEC education will have to, subtraction. Yeah, subtraction of accountability and transparency. Now, Dr. Malloy, we really appreciate this, and we are giving this message to say that we are with you. We are going to come here. So somebody told me in Setswana, and I wouldn't have said this today if you were going to speak after me, because you're going to ask me who that person is. But the person says that the current premier, he didn't say the acting, the current premier udrila dilo ka bonako. He's fast in his approach. And that is based on a Setswana idiom, which says, Mahogorwane, rokela banneng gore etle re setlala setsiba ba go se thuse. Ke go tlotlile kgosi. Ke a go fella fela for. And then, Premier, are you aware that we have to deal with the perceptions? Now, wherever we are sitting in our corners, we think that you sleep peacefully, and you don't. It is because of perceptions about corruption. I think Mr. Lewis actually touched on that, the messaging, very much important. Because my grandmother, who stays in Sitlopo village in Mahikeng, who is 92, doesn't understand when she goes to a clinic somewhere, a municipal clinic, and doesn't get her tablets for high blood pressure. You know what she says? Hi, no, it's corrupt, man. If she doesn't get those things. When the program director travels on a potholed road and gets a crack on his McWheel between Ottosdal and Delereyville, he doesn't really say that this is an R road or whatever. He doesn't care about that. Or whether it's an access road of a municipality. He doesn't care about that. What he's going to say is that, so the perceptions are very much important, and that's how you have to deal with that. So if you give money to the MEC, and then obviously to the head of department, who's the accounting officer, as far as I know, if they don't implement, you will have sleepless nights. And people don't care about where you are sitting, how the structure is, and who can you give instructions to, and all those other things. When things happen, they will come back to you, Mr. Premier. So these messages of support are very important to say that as much as we understand that, we will also assist the province in driving the message to say that, but that the Premier doesn't sleep. Although he cannot be everywhere, so he is not omnipotent. I think that I'm going to stop there because people would have taken what I wanted to talk about. I would have wanted to go to this and other area, but I think I assisted myself by not coming with the presentation because the councillor said that, the Premier said that, other Khosi said that, and everyone said that. Premier, we are coming back home and we are going to assist this cause. We are going to fight against corruption. Thank you.
Yes. Remember that we are giving it up to 2 presenters. Let's go. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The message of support is one, that there's going to be multiplication of action. No more talking. The time for talking is behind us. So there's going to be multiplication of action. Let's multiply the action. Okay, maybe utlamputsa our action. Why? Wait a minute, okay? Before action, let's multiply the action against corruption. You see now, let's multiply the action against corruption. Thank you very much. So we support you indeed, Premier, that we're going to be very much active as you have outlined rules of engagement as Commander-in-Chief of this army. MEC Selole Hare has just advised me, I must remember that next time when I call this gathering, I must ensure that COSATMA is supporter, because Batlakako community safety and transport management, so they know what is happening on the ground. So as law enforcement unit, they also need to support this initiative against corruption. And I do promise you, in the next meeting where I will be the program director, I will ensure that COSATMA is well represented. Thank you very much. I am going to call 2 more speakers, and then after them we will give them that quality clap as we are approaching the end of our program. At this point in time, I'm going to call up front Musa Khotla wako Madibeng, none other than Councillor Ditshego Mbesi. She's a speaker of Madibeng local municipality. She's going to present on anti-corruption activities in municipalities. And I humbly request that we must be listening very much intensively so, because these are activities on the ground. Like the Premier has said, it's not only at national level or provincial level, but there are footprints. There are footprints on the ground. And immediately after Me Ditshego, re tla be re biletsa ko pele Me Yvonne Mutibi from Northwest Development Corporation. She will be presenting on anti-corruption activities. Akutle? Okay. Me Yvonne Mutibi will be presenting anti-corruption activities done within the Northwest Province as part of implementation of anti-corruption strategy. She is presenting at the level of the local, and Yvonne will come and escalate it to the provincial level. Thank you very much. Halala bomme halala. Halala bomme halala. And Elene me kibua yana ka gore ke mogolo ke setse ke le mo ke mosha. Thank you, Missy. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Program Director. Program Director, let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of the following leaders and various stakeholders. Let me start first with the Honorable Acting Premier, Mr. Patrick Tumile Nonomaloi, the MECs present here, National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, Mahosi from the House of Traditional Leaders under the leadership of the chairperson who is present here, executive mayors, speakers, whips from across the Northwest municipalities, head of the departments, CEOs from state-owned entities, representatives from Office of the Public Service Commission, representatives from Directorate Priority Crime Investigation, Hawks, representatives from Farmers Association, representatives from women and youth structures, representatives from trade unions, representatives from various provinces. We're told earlier by the speaker of Matlosana when she was doing the introduction of guests. She mentioned that we have representatives from 2 provinces. We thank you very much. Let me firstly again express my sense of gratitude for being afforded this opportunity as Madibeng local municipality to come and share our experience with regard to all the anti-corruption activities that we have done. Before, can you go back to the first slide? Yes, as you can see there on the first slide is myself, the speaker of Madibeng local municipality. I was setting the tone in the anti-corruption dialogue that was held last year, November, on the 25th. I have used the pictures of the recent dialogue because we had many dialogue that we have embarked on as Madibeng, but I chose to use these ones, the recent ones. But it's important that I share with the audience that this journey of driving or fighting corruption has started in 2019 when Madibeng engaged in a concerted effort to fight corruption. I believe all of you know that Madibeng is all over the news with wrong things that is happening in that institution, but it's important that today you know, even if or even when the municipality is being attacked every day, there are those areas that we are doing good and we are trying. Can you move to the second slide? Sorry, just a minute. I'm going to, on the table of content, the first one will be setting the context, and the second one will be dealing with Madibeng integrity and ethics framework. 3, our anti-corruption journey, progress registered, impact realized. The last one is ongoing challenges and remedial actions. Our presentation is short. That is why we did not use other pictures of the previous event. So we don't want to bore the audience, but we need to go straight to why we are here. As you can see also on the other left-hand side, the chain there, break the corruption chain. As you can see, one person cannot fight corruption. We need to join together as various stakeholders so that we realized a South Africa that is free from corruption. Can you move, please, to another slide? Just a minute. I'm not sure I can see. Okay. Setting the context, why taking action against corruption is important. That is the first question that we must all ask ourselves. I have used the 2 articles. I'm not going to read what the article is saying, but I believe all of you know what AG is saying about Madibeng, what other media houses are saying about Madibeng local municipality. But the one that is so clear next to me here on my right-hand side, that says, the residents in Madibeng, South Africa's worst municipality, go without water while billions go to waste. Then down there, underneath the picture, there's a small words there. I believe all of you will share the presentation with all the audience. You will read for yourself when you are at home. Can you move? Now, from the previous slide, now we are talking about the council policy position on corruption. In the middle there you can see is the Constitution of the Republic, which is the supreme law of our country. Everything starts there. On the left-hand side, I have put there the anti-corruption strategy of 2015, because we used that strategy of 2015 because I know now we have the 2020 to 2030 anti-corruption strategy, but we were being guided by that one of 2015, but I think it's the same. It's just an additional information on the new one. When you go to the far right, there's the integrity and ethics management framework. Those were the guiding document towards our journey in driving these anti-corruption activities in Madibeng local municipality. Down there, you can see bullet number 1. Madibeng took a policy position to adopt commitment statement as a policy directive. When you go down there, it says 0 tolerance to corruption, because as a municipality, we are really tired. We cannot be all over the news every day for negative things that are happening there. Second bullet says council oversight structures on governance and ethics. Now when you go underneath there, you can see there's MPEC. Council established MPEC Section 79 committee. Those are the Section 79 committees. We have a disciplinary board, we have integrity and ethics committee, we have an audit committee and risk committee. Those are the governance structures in place in Madibeng, in ensuring that we work together with those structures so that we can realize a South Africa that is free from corruption. Can we go to another slide? Now, this is the slide that talks a lot about where we've started, where are we now as a municipality in trying to fight corruption. On my far left, it's a pledge. We have pledged as the municipality. As you can see, we have started in 2019, council approved the policy, and in 2020, the first public anti-corruption dialogue partner with key stakeholders, the public resolved on the future steps. We invited various stakeholders when we started this journey. Like I said, alone or individually as the municipality won't be able to realize this big project, because you know when you're dealing with corruption, you run the risk of being killed. As one of the latter speakers has spoken, that our whistleblowers are not protected, they are being killed every day. So it's important that we take them serious as a society and various sectors. You can see down there are banners of various stakeholders that were present in that dialogue, and we live streamed that dialogue to afford communities opportunity to call and submit their frustrations, because it was that time of COVID-19. If you recall, the country was hit by COVID-19 and we lost many of our people. May their soul rest in peace. So it was in 2019 where there was COVID, and 2020 there was COVID. So we had the audience of more than 200 people, and we said, we agreed the stakeholders that no, let's live stream this event so that we afford communities to partake in this kind of a gathering. That's where we resolved as that dialogue, the resolutions that we must do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that we realize this program of anti-corruption. In 2021, we have establishment of the Integrity Committee. Council mandate the committee to carry ethics and integrity work on its behalf. Now, the Integrity Committee was established by Council in terms of Section 79 of the Municipal Structures Act. The committee deals with issues of ethics, integrity, and fraud and corruption. Now, there was a confusion from other stakeholders and council itself to say, but if we have the Financial Disciplinary Board and you also have the Integrity Committee, what is the role of the Integrity Committee? What is the role of the Disciplinary Board? Now, this one was established as a result of one of the resolutions of the dialogue that we had in 2019 to say, because we understand that the Structures Act, it says council may establish a Section 79 committee that comprises of its members. But we realize that committees with councillors, oversight becomes a problem. That is why audit committee is independent. It comprises of professional people. There's no councillor there. But a committee with councillors, I'm telling you, colleagues, it's a problem to play oversight. Now that committee itself, Integrity Committee, has been chaired by Prof. Musinyane. I believe I think he's one of the presenters today. He will go further on his journey in terms of chairing the Integrity Committee in Madibeng. But the same committee does not have that 100% support of council. You know why? Because we'll find a situation whereby members of the executive in council, they question these committees. I mean, I believe it's ill-discipline, because these committees are subcommittees and are meant to assist council to hold executive them accountable. So now when they question Section 79 committees, it's a real problem. So this committee, it needs to be supported by council itself, because it's doing the good work, and it comprises of a professional advocate, and it's been chaired by the Prof. Musinyane. Now, going to 2022, the second public anti-corruption dialogue progress on the past resolution given. Like I said, 2019-20, we have taken resolution. Fast forward to 2022, the picture that was there in the first slide, that's where I was setting the notes in the second, or at the second public anti-corruption dialogue. Now, can we move down? As you can see down there, there were audience, you know, the facility was full to capacity, because everybody honored our invitation. Thank you very much. Can you go up? Now, on my left-hand side, progress registered. You can see the speaker of Bojala District Municipality, Councillor Lucky Madiba. And then on the left-hand side, you can see JJ Tabane. Now, let me speak to the picture. JJ Tabane, if you recall, ladies and gentlemen, he previously attacked Madibeng local municipality in his platform. And I don't blame him, because he is a resident, even though he's not staying there anymore in Madibeng. So imagine visiting your parent, and you find that your parent struggle with water, and they are old people, your mother and your father. That is why he's always now attacking the municipality, because he's coming from Madibeng and he's not impressed with how the municipality is running its affairs. So we said, no, strategically, let us rope in JJ Tabane to come and facilitate our programs, anti-corruption dialogue programs, and he agreed. Now, the first program, he was facilitating it, and the second program, he was facilitating it. And he will always talk to me and other colleagues in the team to say that we have taken the resolution, because he was reminding me, I think it was months ago when we met on a visual platform, to say, the Speaker, where are you with regard to implementing the resolution of the second anti-corruption dialogue? So we are in the process of implementing those resolutions, but like I said, it's not easy, because issues of fighting corruption are difficult. This is not an easy journey, because you become hated by your colleagues, councillors, and officials, because you want to see them in jail, you want to see the money being followed. That is why JJ. Okay, progress registered. I don't see. Can I open it on my so that I speak to the work done? It's important. The progress is not that big, because I believe when you are seated there, you are asking yourself, but the Speaker is talking good about the municipality, but all the time, age is talking a different thing. So, but it's important that you know that as much as we have registered a small, sizable, impact, but we are committed. We are committed in ensuring that we finally uproot or root out a corruption whenever it raises its ugly head. Okay, thank you very much. This technology. Okay, let me go to the slide where we are. Okay. Now I'm going to start with the circle at the top there. Reports by Integrity Committee on investigation concluded were tabled before Council. Like I indicated, this committee does not get that support 100% by Council, but it has done the wonderful job in ensuring that it investigates all the outstanding cases in the municipality. So the last report, its last report, I remember we were arguing in Council. Some councillors saying, no, the Speaker, like I said, they don't recognize that committee because it's independent, or it comprises of independent candidate. They say, Speaker, no, can you refer this report back? I ruled to say, Prof. Chairperson, can you present this report? It's fine. We'll just listen to the report and we'll take note of the report, but we'll never resolve on the matter. Now, since then, the Integrity Committee has never given opportunity to come and table the report, because we need buy-in of all the councillors. So as long as you have pushback from other individual councillors to now distract this committee to do its work, it's a problem. It's a serious problem. Now, we have officials dismissed, resigned following disciplinary processes on fraud and corruption reports. There are a lot of officials who resigned due to this corruption. And some, they are still busy, subjected to disciplinary processes. We are awaiting the final reports for Council to consider. We go to the right-hand side, improved councillor committee meeting. If you recall, there was a call by community, our communities, to say that councillors are not convening their meetings monthly. Now, but I can safe to say now, confidently, that since our inaugural council, the consultation, public participation is now improved. As you can go to our Facebook page of Madibeng, you will see how many people are now attending community meetings. Now we are in business with our communities. We don't, sideline them. We don't isolate them because it's imposed by the Constitution of the Republic through Chapter 7, Section 152, that says communities must be encouraged to participate or to be involved in matters of local government. So now it's a constitutional obligation to involve communities in everything that we do. The last section that speaks about senior managers deregistered from the CSD system as the result of the ongoing verification of disclosure of business of interest. We have found out that there were some officials who were doing business with the municipality. Now there's a system that we are using every financial year. There's every councillor, every official must declare their financial interest. So we do it annually, even though it's not 100%. You still have those councillors, those officials who do not want to come and declare their financial interest. But safe to say now, we are at above 70% of those that are declaring every financial year. That was work in progress. Can we go to another slide? Now let's talk about the impact made. Service delivery improves, water quality improves to 93 to 96, a compliance rate on average in line with South African National Standard 241 breast water purification. If you remember allegations from the communities of Madibeng to say that Madibeng is distributing dirty water to its community. Now there was a concerted, effort with the stakeholders and our water board to ensure our water now is at complying. Now we are now at 96. Now I have attached the certificate from SANS 241 that shows that it's a proof that the water that we are distributing now as the municipality is at 96%. Now it's good for consumption of our communities. Now we go to the right side that speaks of MIG, municipal infrastructure. I know all of you know that 146 million was returned back to National Treasury. But you must know why did that grant was returned back to National Treasury. We have the group of people in the form of business unemployment. They stop projects, they demand 30%. So they delay the municipality on spending its MIC. But I want to confidently say for this year we have a stability. We are now spending, we have improved from 74 to 9,800 over the past year, so it's an improvement. We are now working. Those are the impact that we are making as a municipality. And like I said, it's a small, sizable impact that we did, but we are committed. We are promising you that we are going to get there. One day, the municipality of Madibeng will be there in the newspapers with good, work that it's doing. Can we go to the other slides? Ongoing challenges and remedial action. It goes back to our subcommittees of council not functioning well. Now remember, those subcommittees are assisting council to hold the executive accountable with regard to matters of service delivery. So if MPEG is not functioning well, it's a problem because MPEG must play its oversight. MPEG must deal with a lot of issues. One of them is to investigate UIF and NW. I believe all of you know where we are in terms of that area. That is why I did not put the UIF here. But those are the challenges that we are facing as the municipality. And again, the support, no sufficient resources available for the effective functioning of the integrity committee. That committee needs to be supported from the non-financial resources and financial resources. And as a speaker, believe me, I'm supporting that committee 100% because myself and corruption, we don't see eye to eye. I hate corruption with everything that I have. Now, I said when you talk about it, when you are fighting it, you are running a risk of being killed. And one speaker said here earlier, I think it is the speaker Kolile, yes, the acting district mayor, he said, when he made example with the licensing department, I always make an example with that to say to community or to our society, you are part of corruption. Because imagine you applied for learners, you prepare yourself to write an exam, and when you go for exam, you go having 5,000 rand in your pocket. Where are you taking that 5,000 rand? Because you have prepared that you are going to write and you are going to pass. It's because you are now encouraging corruption. Because even when you are not having that 5,000, when you write the exam well, you are going to fail because that person who will be examining you, he or she is used to that cash. So they are budgeting from it every week to say, Friday I must have 30,000 rand. So even if you are driving well, you are correct, they will make you fail so that they have that 5,000 rand. So society must be part of these processes. When we work together, we can do this. The last slide, I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you very much. Again, yes. That's corruption, man. If we are doing it for the sake of her being your neighbor, I withdraw that. Okay, Ms. Yvonne, and Speaker, it is said that the journey of 1,000 steps starts with that first one that you made. So the small result that you're presenting says a lot about where you're going. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mayvon. I wanted to say something, but I will reserve what I wanted to say.
Thank you so very much, Program Director, Reverend Mpa. Let me also follow protocol and take this opportunity to acknowledge and greet dignitaries in the House. Maybe starting with the Honorable Premier, the MECs in the House, Makhosi, Dikhosi, tribal houses, NACEC, the committee, and officials. We have various representatives from civil society, from business, from communities, trackers from municipalities, officials. Good afternoon. Perhaps I need also to indicate that you might have noticed I look the same as soldiers on the floor who has been serving the House, and that is precisely because I'm one of them. In paying allegiance, today we decided to wear black and white, but that is precisely a norm. In all the work that we've been doing, we team up. There is commonality, and we work together. We come together from different backgrounds, different organizations to work together. And my duty for today really is to give status on how far we've come as the province in implementing the National Anti-Corruption Strategy. This would be a synopsis of the anti-corruption activities we've been rolling out since the year 2019. And I'm doing this on behalf of the office in the Premier, the office led by the Director, Mayor Mpetlo, together with the team, Mayor Pauline Dolo, whom you've seen here, who is leading this program, and other team members, Lindsay, who is there. These colleagues or dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, are people who have been long into this journey, precisely because when government is put into place, and these are some of the emerging contributions that we get as and when we engage with various groupings on the ground and municipalities, is that government is put into power on the basis of confidence and on the basis of trust. Now, there would not be any need for us to fight corruption because we trust. We trust by casting our vote to have someone into a position of power. Now, of course, reality has revealed that that trust erodes out very quickly once the office is occupied. And as a result of that, then there comes a need for us to start taking action against what do we do with the lack of confidence and mistrust that we now see playing out in government. So maybe I need to indicate I am an official of the Northwest Development Corporation, and I should thank my CE for allowing me to participate in this program, who's seated here today together with the chairman of the board. My greetings to them. So at the outset, we need to acknowledge that, as previous speakers have already confirmed, this is not an exercise that is going to take a single man. We recognized at the beginning that we needed to partner, we needed to collaborate with multiple sectors in driving an anti-corruption strategy. And these are some of the sectors that, from the outset, we knocked onto their doors and we sought their help in assisting us to drive out this program. And some of those would be the Office of the Presidency, who were leading the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, Office of the Premier, of course, in the lead at the provincial level. We had Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. We had the Department for Public Service and Administration. SALGA, of course, when it comes to local government, they were a key role player. And various municipalities at the district level, local level, and those also were led by their mother department, COCTA. So this started back when we had to do a provincial consultation, and that consultation was to take to the people a diagnostic report that was issued by the Office of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy. And out of that consultation, we then had to submit inputs from people on the ground. The purpose of it was to get the views and opinions of the people on the ground, or maybe recognizing that people are key role players to rolling out this program. We needed to know what their views were. And our targeted participants in that, we sourced inputs from provincial government and various departments, district and local municipalities. We spoke to tribal officers, we spoke to Mahosi, we spoke to businesses, and those who were represented during that process were representations from the mining and financial sector. We spoke to community representatives. We also spoke to churches and religious organizations. We spoke to civil society, and we also brought into the task women, youth, and people with disabilities in also getting to know what are their pressure points on corruption and unethical behavior in public sector, and how best Do they think this can be addressed in them advancing their own agenda as people of disabilities, as youth and as women, who currently are not really included? They are expressing concerns that they are not included in business opportunities, and they are not recognized as a key role player, and our mechanisms of creating jobs do not really recognize that they too need jobs and are capable. Disabled as they are capable of working. And those are some of the things that we got out of that grouping. But of course, out of that process, in as much as we acknowledge that what we see and what we deal with every day are issues of lack of awareness and training, and what we see and deal with every day is an issue of unethical leadership and unethical behavior, non-compliance to laws and regulations. Those are things that, as and when we interact and transact in organizations and government departments, municipalities, you find that procurement processes are not followed. You find that there is non-compliance, materially so, to an extent that it would lead to adverse audit opinions, it would lead to illegal transactions, it would lead to irregular spending, it would lead to unlawful appointment of service providers and officials into public offices. That is just a tip of an iceberg. These are views of people whom we had consulted back then when we did a provincial consultation. They said, what you are dealing with now is a tip of an iceberg. And they said to us, we know precisely what the real issues are. We might not be in the system, but we live amongst the people who are involved. We see them. They are our neighbors. And we know that they don't have morality. We know that they don't even understand what ethics is about. They don't carry and uphold the principles and values of Ubuntu, the same foundational principles that we brought together when we merged into a democracy. They spoke about lack of competence in management, about appointing people who do not necessarily possess the relevant qualifications. And that would be for those who do have some qualifications, because we do have those who don't have anything at all. And they say these are the real issues, because then how would you expect someone who doesn't have education to understand the law and apply it? They said, but again, the other thing is because you are not involving us. As civil society, you are not involving us. As communities, you are not involving us. So how else do you intend to achieve this if we are not part of it? Because it is me, a community member, who's going to knock and say, look, I want this job. And you'll be saying to me, I can give it to you, but what is my cut? So it takes both the public and officials and the private sector to venture into this unwanted, corrupt behavior. They spoke about, but have you looked into the party interest versus public interest? And of course, with that came the issue of this political deployment that we see playing out. How else are these people who are politically deployed into positions of power, how are they going to address the dilemma of having to choose between a party mandate vis-à-vis a public mandate? Are we not placing them into a difficult position to have them to have to choose on something that is very difficult to choose? Because naturally, if you are going to be deployed to occupy a position of power by a political party, you are bound to go with the mandate of that political party, in as much as there is a public expectation for you to drive a public interest. So these are some of the dilemmas that the communities are saying. These are the underlying factors that if we do not address, will still remain having to address the tip of an iceberg. And of course, we do have issues of self-interest. And they raised an issue of, you have councillors, you have officials, you have directors and executives who go into that office with an interest to fill up their pockets. And they say, we know about these things. We see them. You see someone getting into an office, hardly 3 months, they are driving huge cars, beyond what they can afford. How then do we justify and explain that big jump? And now with that comes a problem of having to maintain that kind of a lifestyle. And that's why it keeps going deep and deep. Pockets keep getting deeper and deeper, and sometimes this then leads to that greed that has to do with self-interest. And these were some of the issues that were raised as underlying reasons which the community, and out of the consultation process, then there is an expectation that we as government would have to address in addressing the root cause and eliminating some of the underlying reasons why we'll continue to see corruption. So post that process, we had to then roll out some of the initiatives to address the findings or emerging concerns out of the consultation processes. And of course here the Office of the Premier in the lead, in partnership with many of us, and Kokta Salga, we started the process of conducting workshops. And I think many of the previous speakers have spoken to the importance of awareness, education, and knowledge around the subject. So the intention was to do precisely that. We needed to educate the people, we needed to get communities to understand what corruption is. And I think I really acknowledge the contribution made earlier on when there was a concept that was raised to say corruption is the equivalent of someone stealing, because that is how people understand it. So it's important that we need to explain it so that when you see it, you should be able to identify what corruption is so you can then report it. Can I single-handedly be corrupt, or will it take me and someone else to be corrupt? And how do we then address that? So those were some of the objectives of running a workshop across the province. And of course, out of the concerns raised during the consultation was an issue of involvement of external members and the communities. And out of that, then, we established a local anti-corruption forum. Now, this local anti-corruption forum comprises of members external to local government, external to the local municipality. And these are people who are completely external and working directly with the Office of the Speaker in these local municipalities. So they would want to say, but we want to know, we want to have a say, we want to ask questions and hold officials accountable. But then how else do we do it if we are external people? So, and that's why then that gave rise to a need for us to have this establishment of a completely external structure without an official in it that is going to be dealing directly with the Office of the Speaker in addressing their concerns and demanding for information in the spirit of transparency and openness in getting to know what really is it that the municipality is doing to address corruption. And some of the concerns obviously that we want to know about is, why are we not seeing consequence management? We know people are doing wrong, but there's no consequence management. Why is it not taking place? Why are executives and directors not being held accountable for their lack in fast-tracking the process of consequence management to punish wrongdoing? So we also did roadshows in various municipalities and townships and villages. And as you can see, I think the pictures that you see there are evident to that rollout or process. And this is where now we go to the public, like not in a venue, not in a hall, not at a church, not at a municipal facility, but in the streets, in taverns, in shopping complexes. And we talk to them about this. And we tell them this is what we want you to do in assisting us to drive this process. There is an ongoing training of officials and councillors. Now recently with, I think in 2019 or 2020, with the election of councillors, we also ran an induction of anti-corruption and ethics, onboarding the new councillors and officials. And that is an ongoing program. It is not something that is static. It is not something that we're going to start now and end tomorrow. It is something that we'll continue to do for as long as we have the capability and resources to do it. Now, currently, what we are rolling out, of course, is the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, which is something new. Although it has always been there in principle, the actual strategy it's only been rolled out now. Okay. We've got public dialogues and public dialogues on anti-corruption, and I think that is an example to that is what the speaker from Madibe local municipality spoke to. We are bringing law enforcement agencies closer to the people for access. So as and when we do these roadshows, we bring along SIU, we bring along the Office of the Hawks, we bring along NPA. We bring them closer to the people because people don't trust us as officials. They don't want to come to me and report a matter to me. They don't trust me. I am in the system already. They want direct access to SIU. They want direct access to the Hawks. And that's what we do. We bring the office of these law enforcement agencies closer to the people as we run out these roadshows. But again, they normally ask questions on the law enforcement agencies to say, but the Hawks has been investigating this matter for way too long. It's taking way too long, and we're not getting a conclusive report and outcome out of this issue. We also promote whistleblowing, and I think it speaks to the point that I've just raised now. And what we do as well is to promote training on ethics and corruption from a legislation point of view, to say, by the way, this is not a side project. Ethics and anti-corruption is an imperative that is found in the Constitution and in the Bill of Rights. And Section 195 of the Constitution, I think, prescribes exactly just what standard of professionalism do we need to carry out as and when we interact with our colleagues and with the public. So this is not a side project. This is very well legislated. But the attention it is receiving, of course, it is as though it is not a legislated concept. It is always an afterthought, and you'll see it when you raise it that people will be saying, no, but we don't have time. We'll attend to this issue of ethics in the next meeting. Let's defer it. Or it receives the least budget. It receives the least resources. So it does not receive the attention that really it deserves. And that's what we'll be doing in promoting that, by the way, it is a legislative imperative. So I think in the previous slides, I have been touching on the objectives of the provincial anti-corruption initiatives, so I will not really get into detail, but of course we've touched on driving a social aversion to corruption, to say that it is a whole of government society approach that we are taking, and that will need to fight and overcome the challenges of corruption. Of course, we need to constantly make citizens aware of their rights. They do have a right to know. They have a right to information. So if they are going to be asking for reports, they have a right to that report. And this is the kind of knowledge that we want them to have, that you can come to the office and ask for investigation reports. It's your right. Of course, some personal information might have to be classified, but you absolutely do have a right into this process. We promote their involvement in public governance. We improve transparency in government processes, thereby increasing the trust and confidence levels. And what we are doing really is also to promote accountable government, that the public will have a say on matters of corruption and will know what it is that is being done to address it. So that is accountability, and take action where they see that there isn't sufficient action taken. And with that, I think this is my last slide. So, mostly because we continually engage with people on the ground, thus, in as much as we are trying to bring a solution, that solution is circumvented to raise or give rise to a new problem. So, some of the concerns which are raised is that the public is not confident that corruption is dealt with in a timely and deliberate manner. And I think I spoke to this point earlier. And that law enforcement agencies are taking way too long to conclude investigations and to prosecute. So there's no impact. That no recovery of state-owned funds from culprits. We don't see recovery of stolen funds. We don't see recovery of misappropriated funds. And the issue of recycling of political deployees, ongoing impunity in the public office, protection of wrongdoers, cadre deployment, and greed by leaders. So all these emerging problems will make us seem as though, in as much as we thought we were 75% into the journey of rolling out the anti-corruption initiatives and making impact into fighting corruption, we are slowly regressing, because we take a step forward and 3 steps back, precisely because of the points that we just highlighted now. And on the way forward, the Provincial Anti-Corruption Technical and Ethics Committee, PECTEC, which is a structure established at the level of the province, is meeting on a regular basis and across the province to actively partake and promote these programs and ensure that all officials who are champions of ethics in their respective departments are on par as to what is expected of them and how best can they then be equipped to run these ethics offices. That's where we share our lessons in terms of what are the challenges and what are the achievements that we can learn from each other and how best do we tackle this. What we are doing currently as well is incorporation of the next, which is the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, into government policy and standard operating procedures. We established we are encouraging for departments and municipalities to establish a dedicated office in government departments and municipalities. Okay, I've just said that. That sounds like tautology. in considering the magnitude of work that needs to be done. So we are saying anti-corruption is a lot of work. It will not work if it's going to be an additional responsibility of someone. It needs its own dedicated office with its own dedicated staff to drive it and do so timely and efficiently. Of course, what also is happening currently is to hold senior government officials accountable, the ongoing training, and of course, the last thing that we want to highlight is that we need your support. We need you to partner with us. We need you to collaborate to speedily see impact out of this initiative, because we alone, as officials and as government, we cannot do it. And with that, Program Director, I think this is the message that I was requested to deliver by the colleagues who are here and Office of the Premier. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much, both presenters, on the footprints made by Provincial Anti-Corruption, Forensic and Ethic Directorate, which is housed in the Office of the Premier. Deputy Chair, I believe that you can see that a lot is being happening here in the province. Like I said, even this event is a culmination of what Office of the Premier, specifically to the directorate that I've referred to, have been doing. As you were part of us going around the community yesterday, it is their effort. You see, it dates back to 2007. 2007, when this office, together with the other department and technical committee, as it has been referred to, join hands together and ensure that there is a provincial anti-corruption forum, there is a district anti-corruption forum, there is a local anti-corruption forum to ensure that all the activities against corruption is being taken from the ground to the head. And the roles were clear to those structures to fight corruption and to advise government on national, provincial, and local initiative of combating combating corruption. And then the lesson learned during those events is that corruption unchecked will increase and make the poorest poorer. And that is why we are here. Secondly, is that it takes integrity to fight corruption. That is why I agree with one of the speakers here who said we must avoid dividing integrity, because integrity divided will not be able to win the battle against corruption. So I think it is only proper to give it up to the Office of the Premier, the directorate that I've referred to, corruption, forensic, and ethics. Can we just give it up to them? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. And to the technical committee working together with them. Again, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1. Thank you very much. We are close to closing our program, but I think it is only proper to call upon the law enforcement agencies in the name of Special Investigating Unit. We're going to have 2 presenters who promised me that they are going to assist me in ensuring that we have time for another presenter. Advocate Maleka, together with Luki Mashishi from SIU, over to you. And as they are coming, let me just tell you that there are people online who are attending this meeting with us, and maybe if they do have some concern and question, they can engage on platform and send them so that we must be able to share them with the audience here. Thank you very much for watching us online. Don't just watch us, engage us. Thank you very much. Over to you, SIU.
Thank you, Program Director, and good afternoon to the Honorable Premier in his absence, to all MECs present, to all heads of departments, to all representatives from the Christian and the traditional sectors, and all protocol observed. I'm Advocate Florence Maleka from the Northwest SIU office, Mahikeng. I'm the acting head of investigations, and I'm also the principal forensic lawyer for the Northwest Province. I'm here with my colleagues. The one that is standing here is Mr. Luki Mashishi. He's the one who will be doing the presentation. He's the principal forensic lawyer for the Northwest Province. I'm also here with Ms. Caroline Mukoka. I don't know where she's seated. She's one of the senior managers. There she is at the corner. We also have our other two colleagues, Mr. Gift Mpahlele and Humphrey Mafole. So we are a very big team. Our role today is to come and give progress on the active proclamations that we are currently working on as the SIU Northwest Province. We're just going to give you the status on those proclamations. They will include both the civil, the criminal, and the disciplinaries that we do when we do our investigations. Okay. And I'll also like to acknowledge the previous speakers, and also I'm encouraged that departments, municipalities are also fighting this monster that we call corruption, fraud, theft, bunwenwe. Oh, bukhwene. Okay. So I also want to confirm what our Honorable Premier was saying in the morning with regard to the progress updates that we give the Office of the Premier on a quarterly basis, or as and when they are requested from our office. So we have a very good relationship with the Premier, both the acting Premier and the Premier, and we as the SIU wish him speedy recovery. And before I continue, I just want to correct my colleague here who said that usually when people are in an acting position, they don't want to leave the position. So as somebody who's also in an acting position, I can assure you that it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I also want to applaud all the women that were presenting, and I think it's only fair that we give them a round of applause. Yes. So yeah, we are taking the baton, yes. So thank you, ladies. I just want to add before Mr. Mashishi does his presentation, to say that we as the SIU, we also form part of what is called the National Priority Crime Operational Committee Case Management. We had a meeting yesterday in Potchefstroom, and this committee prioritizes what we called, or what is termed, the priority cases. So if there's a case that is, termed as priority, it's where those cases are discussed and feedback or the status on the cases are given. So what the committee comprises of provincial commanders, the section commanders, the hogs, the subs. So I think it's a good step in the right direction, because when we do investigations, when you refer for criminal, when you do your criminal referrals, when you do your disciplinary referrals, when you do your civil litigation referrals, it's very difficult when you do your reports to know what the status is. But these committees assist us as a law enforcement agencies to keep track of what we do as the SIU. So I just wanted to highlight that even though we refer to NPA, to the hogs, to the AFU, we also follow up on these cases. Okay. And my last remark is that as the SIU, we are available. We have the fraud hotline where you can phone us and report any acts of criminality. You can also come into our offices and report. It's your choice. You can remain anonymous if you want to, or you can freely say your details, and yeah, we will definitely follow up on your report. And we also encourage anyone who wants to come and report to say, please bring as much evidence as you can so that the process is faster. We know that we have our own internal processes where we register the case, where the case has to be assessed, but the more evidence we have, the faster or speedier the motivation for a proclamation. So I'll hand over to Ntate Mashishi to run, just do the active proclamations, what we are currently busy with, and the status thereof. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Program Director. Good afternoon. In the absentia of the Honorable Premier, and good afternoon all the MECs present in the House and the protocol observed. My name is Luki Mashishi, as it has already been alluded earlier on by my colleague. My role is very short, sweet, just to report only on the outcomes of the work that SIU has been performing within the province of Northwest. Can I kindly ask my sister to put a slide on, and just to, in short, quickly move to slide number 6, if I am not mistaken. But it just hang there. Can I just quickly indicate the most important part about SIU is that as SIU, we do have the responsibility to ensure that out of our investigation, there are consequence management. And those consequence management are the ones that are reflecting on our slide, which we do the civil litigation, the disciplinary of all the departments, officials involved in any maladministration, fraud, corruption, and etc. And we also do the referral to the regulatory bodies, which are your SARS, Competition Commission, and we also do referrals to NPA and recommendations for blacklisting should we find out that there are those service providers that are conducting business within the government spheres and they are continuously committing that kind of criminal activities. So we do report them to a specific government, authority body to stop them from participating further with the government department. Can I quickly ask you to move directly to our ongoing proclamation, which is slide number 9. Thank you. Active proclamation that we do have within the province of Northwest is our National Student Financial Aid Scheme. It is known by the project code R88 of 2022. The proclamation basically it deals with regard to all those student funds and those that they were obtained in a fraudulent manner, and the officials that are involved in a corrupt manner in awarding those financial aid schemes. And we do have also the one termed UIF, which is R8 of 2021. Basically, it talks to the temporary employment relief funds that were administered by the Department of Labor. And we do have the Department of Community Safety and Transport Management, project number R2 of 2018. Normally is termed scholar transport. And the fourth one, we do have Northwest Province Department of Health, which is termed R42 of 2019. The fifth one is Northwest Provincial Department of Health, termed R74 of 2022, medical legal claims. In these two departments, everyone will really see that the Department of Health is under a serious threat in terms of the criminalities and the corruption involved in that department. So the sixth one is Northwest Department of Cooperation, Development of Cooperation, my apologies, Northwest Development of Cooperation, termed R30 of 2019. I know the previous speaker comes from the very same department, but we are working very hand in hand with them. They are also helpful to the SIU. Can I ask you to move to the following slide? The next slide. Okay, my apology. The Department of Employment and Labor is the same proclamation that I spoke about, the UIF. Can I just quickly move into pull your attention to the right side of the slide, whereby we categorize it into 3 legs. There is the first one, personal investigation, which is the phase 1. This one deals exactly with the employees in the different departments, those that during that COVID period, they were claiming a loss of income, whereas they were still having that income from the government. And in short, the number of investigation that we did in that, it resulted into the number of acknowledgement of debts, normally we term it AODs, signed by those employees. They found themselves on the wrong side of the law. The number of those employees were around 119. And an amount recovered through those AODs, it wasn't that much, but it is, if you were to consider the purpose that this amount can serve in developing, helping those that are unemployed. It is an amount of 1,917,621.16. Some of these DC referrals, we have not yet referred to them for some different reasons that we thought of. Let us first, our approach, we had a different approach of dealing with, but those that they are involved is not that they are not going to be accountable or to face the mighty of the law. And the second one is the one that we termed it ad hoc matters, syndicate. Basically, these ones is those companies that they did not exist at all, but they just grouped themselves, quickly registered ghost employees, and then they went into the department to claim the temporary employment relief funds. And the number of cases received for that investigation were around 24, and number of acknowledgement of debts signed were around 9, and amount recovered through those AUDs is 11,977,470 rand 49 cents. And the 3 criminal referrals for fraud completed to the value of 9,097,334 rand and 18 cents. Those matters, as we speak currently, they are with the National Prosecuting Authority. Cases has been registered and the matters are ongoing before court. And the phase 2 part of it is the, my apologies, we termed it phase 2, but it's the third leg, investigation on the companies. These are the companies that they do exist, legitimate companies. However, what then we discovered with these companies is that they will manipulate the system in a way that if a person was getting a salary of 10,000, for an example, per month, during that COVID-19, they came up with a way of manipulating the system, and they created the salary increase to 20,000, so that it can suit exactly the amount of money to be claimed from the TERS, which is Temporary Employment Relief Funds. So in that space, we had a number of cases received for investigation were about 12, and those investigations are still under investigation and no recoveries made yet. And the reason being, these companies, they are not at easy to concede. They challenge us. So we do have our tribunal court, special tribunal court, where we take them up to so that they can face the consequences thereof. Cases mostly be referred to NPA, as they are mostly fraud cases. We do have, as my learned colleague has already previously indicated, that time to time we do have interaction with the NPA. They give us the feedback. However, for purposes of security, we did not disclose the name of those companies because the matters are still under investigation. Can I ask my learned sister to move to the next slide? Thank you. The Department of, Northwest Department of Health Proclamation R74 of 2022 is the one that we just registered earlier on, which is last year. We are having an investigation that is still ongoing on that. No outcomes to report at this moment. The background of this is about those, this investigation entails around those attorneys mostly, my colleagues will pardon me, in the private sectors, those attorneys, they will really cripple the Department of Health in the medical claims pertaining to cases such as we term them cerebral palsy cases, where children mostly are born with the brain damages due to the lack of enough staff members in the department, maybe perhaps lack of facilities. We have encountered a number of those challenges currently in our own hospitals where facilities were not available. So the department will face those legal claims, but then we are there to assist the department in trying to cap in this amount of claims that are being claimed from the Department of Health. Can I ask to move to the next slide? This one is Northwest Department of Health again. Particularly this one is also another lake in the Department of Health whereby they do have those claims in relation to the ambulances, mobile clinics that we have encountered about it. And when we move to, when you take your, move your attention to the right side of the slide, it talks to the results. Here the outcomes that we came about were like the disciplinary referrals. 3 referrals were made against the official for misconduct and contravention of sections of PFMA were made in October 2022. And the other outcomes out of that is that 1 official has already been dismissed during 2022. The NPA referrals, we have 2 referrals against the senior officials as well for contravention of PFMA. Matters are now investigated by the Directorate Priority Crime Investigation, which is the Hawks. And the civil litigation, part of it, which is a civil action, we did freeze one of the officials' pension fund to the value of an amount of 2,125,113 rand and 58 cents. And we do also have the service provider that we have identified that we are currently in the process of launching that matter before the special tribunal to the value of a recovery of the value of 204 million from this service provider. And as the status stands now, the matter is enrolled before special tribunal due to our guidance and directives from our civil litigation unit within this specialized special investigating unit. We have also advised to look into the fraudulent part of it, which is the criminality, and we are also embarking in that space. And can I ask you, we move to the next slide, slide number 13. This one is the one that I spoke about it earlier on, that involves around the students and the officials as well as of NSFAS. This matter is fairly new with us. We are still in the process of collecting enough data, and we are at the process of analysis, and no outcomes have been reported yet. Then can I ask to move to the slide number 14? Thank you. Slide number 14, to the right-hand side of us, it talks to the investigation outcome consequence management. The number of acknowledgement of deaths signed there, we have 8. Amount recovered through AODs is 10,103,143 rand and 44 cents. And the number of cases referred to special tribunal, 9. 3 matters finalized today to the value of 7,979,116 and 12 cents. Those are the matters that we have successfully prosecuted them in the special tribunal, and we managed to recover those amount of money. And can I ask to move to the next slide? This one is Northwest Development Corporation. This investigation, it entails the acquiring of the Christiana Hotel to the value of 48,952,830 rand. The investigation is still ongoing on this matter. It's a very complex matter, but we are on the right direction. Matters have been referred to special tribunal, is the one that I earlier mentioned on, the one of Christiana Hotel and the other one of Invest, whereby we're contesting before the special tribunal court the unlawful contract, the unlawfulness of this contract, the awarding of this unlawful contract. It's an Invest. We are still, the matter is still before the special tribunal, and in short, that is all what we are to share with the entire. Thank you.
I can see now that we are approaching 1 o'clock. Can we give them a proper one? Again. By 1 o'clock, I was avoiding to say lunch. But we get in there. Thank you very much, our presenters. If they say not enough data, don't think that they don't have information. They are poised to strike. And I can makala gore why batho ba khona go utswa 16 cent. Ka re ke bona gona le bo 16 cent mo. Thank you very much, SIU. We are going to have 2 more presentations, and the last one will just be information of where we're going to have our lunch. Office of the Public Service Commission, Professor Mandla Makaya, he is the current caretaker in our province. He is going to give us the presentation, and I just want us to, let's give it to him before he speaks. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1. Over to you, sir.
Program Director. Just to start off quickly, to say that let me write on the protocols that have already been presented so that I can get to the meat of the work, as it were, because time, is of essence here. Just to say quickly that we are the Public Service Commission established on the basis of Chapter 10, Section 196 of the Constitution. Our work is that one of doing oversight, on the public service, as it were. But what has happened, which is fairly critical, is that as we're reflecting, before we came in with the councillors, I mentioned something that I think I need to share with yourselves, that the manner in which we operate is that after doing the investigations, which are evidence-led, we then make our submissions in the context of the national office, to Parliament, in the context of the province, to our legislature. And based on that, the expectation is that the work that we've provided requires them to act on the recommendations. But then you find that some of these actions, as the Honorable Premier mentioned earlier, is that when they are not taken up, you then run the risk of paying the price of something that could have actually been addressed. So there is one incident that I mentioned then to the council. It's of interest that there is an investigation that had already been conducted by the Public Service Commission with regards to the Tembisa Hospital so many years ago. And now, as a result of the fact that that work had not been taken up in the public domain, as it were, nobody actually understood what had been done at that stage. So that is why we need to be very excited about the role that the media plays, because it was only on the basis of the manner in which the media presented the matter that it took the center stage. What I'm simply saying here is that it is important for us to understand that the work that we do, if we put it under the table, nobody actually will care about it. But if the work that we do is taken on a pedestal for everyone else to see, I can guarantee you that everyone else will then have an appreciation of that work because it will have the desired impact. Otherwise, we'll lose out completely on what we're supposed to be doing. Now, taking then the Public Service Commission's work within our province, quite a lot actually have been done, but I just want to highlight a very interesting part, that from the side of what had been mandated by our own government to us, is that over and above everything else that we do, we are mandating you to take charge of the National Anti-Corruption Hotline. It's a very interesting one. When I was invited to join the Public Service Commission, I heard all these members talking about the NAH. I said, oh, I thought we are joining something that has to do with our country. Now we're talking about the NAH. I don't think there's any language that speaks about the NAH in this country. Least did I realize that they are talking about, in a simplified form, that NACH. Now, that's where Nach comes in, because I said, please explain this. What is that about? But the beauty of the work is that people then have an opportunity of reporting any kind of corruption that they see, they observe in whatever area, much as the state was only interested in the public service. But what had happened over time is that people then took an advantage of that hotline, because you report without obviously having to be worried about reprisals, because nobody knows your identity. So what we do then in receipt of these submissions is that we provide them with unique reference numbers, so that as we deal with the work, we don't deal with them on the basis of the individual that is submitted, but rather on the basis of the submission. But we are doing so for a simple reason, that we have a record that we keep, so that we can then report back to the person that had actually raised the concern. So it's a very interesting one in the sense that whoever then reports through that hotline does get a report back from us, because we report in the first instance that we are now investigating what you've reported. And beyond the investigation, we go back to them to say, the work has been concluded. This is how we concluded on the matter. So what then happens is that some of these investigations take some time. Some will, of course, direct to various law enforcement agencies, the Hawks, SIU, IP, the SAPS, in various categories, depending on the type of the submission that has been made. Some to the public protector. But you will then find that we still keep a track of that, because whoever is reported expects us to go back to them. So once these entities have completed their work, they report back to us and we take work back to whoever had reported. That is why it is actually having such an interest among our own population. So I just want to mention that the work now that is happening within the province is very exciting in the sense that we are now moving beyond, the type of work that we've been doing that actually lies hidden out there. Now we are doing it now in a direct sense, right here and right now, in the sense that now you know who our own councillors are, you know from the side of government who are driving this particular agenda and how they expect you to come forward. It's been made very clear here that when you report, we are not expecting anything that is frivolous, because it's not going to take anyone anywhere. We expect you to report something that is tangible. So you must provide evidence. It's not simply just a report, because we don't use this platform to tarnish others' images. We are using this platform to address the problem of corruption. So you need to be very clear about how then it works. That first of all, I get the level of consciousness that there is something happening here which is untoward, and from there, I do my own investigation, however simple it might be, in order to gather information. So that by the time I report, I provide evidence. I don't simply say, oh, this is what I suspect. I move beyond the suspicion to provide the evidence, so that when they then do the investigation, at least they have a starting point. Now, what is going on from our side is just to say that we then have very interesting, data that we will be sharing with yourselves that our team have put together. We have highly sophisticated investigators. Some of them, of course, that we recruited, from what was the former Scorpions, right, who are now working for the Public Service Commission, doing these investigations. And a significant number of our own investigators are qualified lawyers, so who do an excellent job. So we're going to be providing you with this data, because what we currently have is that we've already concluded some of these cases that came through this channel within the province, where we've reported that this particular individual had lied on the following. And for this reason, this individual has to be taken on. One of the individuals actually lied to the employer to say that I'm asking for leave to go and do the following. And the individual was actually seen in an environment where we least expected the individual to be, enjoying himself. Now we said, but this fellow was supposed to be somewhere else. Now when we did the investigation, we discovered that actually the submission, because we were surprised about how to release a person to go and do that. But the submission that was made to the employer would not have suspected anything because it was genuine to say that this is what I'm going to be doing in terms of training and so on and so forth. But unfortunately for the individual, these activities at this day and age are done in the public domain. So we could immediately see the individual and then checked on the paperwork and said, no, but this individual was supposed to be here. One of them was a nurse who claimed from the state because the understanding was that the person was no longer in employment. Upon investigation, we discovered that unfortunately that is not the case. So this individual was still in employment. So these are kinds of data that we need to have at our disposal. So what is important then for us, from the submissions that have been made, is that we need to be very clear about ourselves and what we are doing. That the biggest challenge that we are confronting as a society lies in the fact that the malaise that we have experienced post-democracy has actually gone so deep within our own society, which is why I accept this idea of it being a cancer. Because what it is doing now is to eat on the soul of our society. It is pulling our society apart. These resources that these people are stealing from the state are the resources that are supposed to be going to you and I in our own communities. But what do we find in our communities? We heard the presenters saying that you go to these communities, you find the health service not being provided because they don't have the necessary medication. But the resources were there, but someone actually decided to pocket them. You go anywhere else, you find a similar kind of challenge. And the bottom line is that these things are not happening because we don't know about them. They happen because we have not begun to have an imagination of how do we report. And beyond reporting, how do we get protected from being victimized? That's why I'm talking about reprisals. Now we need to work out an agenda that says, let's assist our society to move in the direction where we can begin to educate them across the board. Within the public service, we talk about constitutional values and principles. Now we say that this was not something that was taken from the air, but these constitutional values and principles are guiding values that permeate our own constitution. So which means that the leaders of our own society, as and when they began to have this imagination about our free society, the democracy was supposed to be based on this platform, which is the main reason why we are then saying to ourselves, to what extent do we even remember that? How do we then begin to embed these constitutional values and principles in every human being, not just those who are working for the public sector, not only those who are working in the private sector, but every member of society, starting from the young to the old. So that is why I'm excited that amongst us councillors, we also have our MECs, MEC for education, because the part that always bothers me is the extent to which we can start from the young age to say, just understand how poisonous corruption can be. One of my colleagues just last week was saying, I was so surprised when my own son said to me, hey, but Dad, why are you not involved in the tendering business? He says actually that bothered him, but he did not know what was the drive of the question. He then said to his son, just explain to me, why are you worried about me not being involved in tendering? He said, no, because you know you will have been a rich fellow. You will have been enjoying all these kinds of things because life will have been very nice around here. He says that it is only then that it dawned in him that there is something fundamentally problematic with our own society. That is why I just want to take this process a step further to say, are we not perhaps reaching a point as a country where we must begin to interrogate the way in which we understand all these kinds of arrangements that we have around us? Maybe the tendering system is fundamentally flawed. Because if we are going to be having a system like that, and it results in what we currently have at this day and age, then of course we must begin to be critical of that. So that we don't simply just fold our arms and say all is well. It can't be well if some people have been socialized to understand that the resources of the state belong to them as individuals. If people believe that, oh no, it does not matter, those resources, once I have this opportunity, it will be my platform to actually have access to them. And I will not be bothered about others. We've seen scary things in our country where resources are paid and people say that, well, I'm going to be doing the following. And when you go and search, you find that they did not even bother to do it. But the money is gone, and you can't actually explain that. That's a point that we have reached within our own society. And it has happened, by the way, in a very, very rapid situation. And it goes to the heart of the problems that we cannot simply just ignore and hope that they will disappear, because they are not going to disappear. So we need to reach a point where we should say to ourselves that let's do this work that we have begun within our own province and not tire and try to get everyone else to begin to appreciate why we are doing it. So that at some point in the future, we should say that we have succeeded, not only just to conscientize people against corruption, but we have succeeded to reach a point where we've obliterated that notion and consciousness in their own views of what corruption is there for them as individuals, but take away this problem completely, which is why I just want to say, let's reach a point where we can say corruption is obliterated completely or erased completely from our memory. Because then we move beyond that which we have begun to understand. Because we've been socialized to understand things differently within our own societies, because we see this as being exciting. You know, people say that, well, you know, it is actually so nice, you know, to live this type of life. You can't live a lifestyle that you have not worked for. You simply cannot. So we need to call it the way it is. Let's name this problem in a direct sense, so that people should then say to themselves, if I've not worked for it, I don't deserve it. It's as simple as that. I can only claim it because I've worked for it. So if we can take our society back to that kind of a value system, we shall succeed. So we should not necessarily view our law enforcement agencies as being our own enemies. Actually, they are our best friends, but they're protecting us. So we can only succeed in doing that if the way we conscientize our own society is going to be on the platform of the work that we are doing here today, so that it doesn't end here. Let's continue being the mouthpiece of whatever has happened here today within our own communities, within our own families, so that it can happen within that confined space, expand within our own community, within our own township, within our own village, but eventually expand across our province and, of course, across our country. That's the only way in which we shall have said we've made a success of the work that we are doing. But we need to continue to say we will be working together with yourselves as the Public Service Commission. We have our own executives with us here today, because we said to ourselves that it must be very clear that we are not simply just here just to touch base with yourselves, but we are here in order to walk this path with you. So with those few words, I just want to say thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
Let us give it to the professor. 1, 2, 3, and 1. Thank you very much, Professor Mandla Makaya, for that wisdom you have shared with us. The platform is not for character assassination, but the platform is for us to rid corruption from the system. And the only way we can do it best is to have evidence of what we're talking about. That's the encouragement that we're getting from our presenters. And I think is the second speaker alluding to what our Councillor Dolopi spoke of, communication. Let's go. and in our spirit that we are able to do good things together. Thank you very much. I hope that this dialogue or this engagement our expectations. So we are going to give again to our advisory counselor who will be painting way forward. Ntate Dolopi, he's going to paint way forward. How do we go forward from here? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Program Director. Let's start this way. In our country, we have so many things that are not working. But at least there is the one institution in our country that is doing so well. It's inspiring. If I was the program director, I would have also tried this thing of his of clapping hands, but I'm not the program director, so I won't do that. But colleagues, the SIU is a shining example of a department or a structure of government that is out to serve the people. If we could give them a hand of applause for the good work that they are doing. Because the kind of work that they are doing is so difficult and dangerous. And at times we don't appreciate you enough. And as we are appreciating you like this, we hope other departments will also follow in the good example, the path that we have chosen, such that we change this country for the better. The way forward, colleagues, in a simple form, from this meeting, we must move from intentions to action. So we must move from rhetoric to practice. The information we gathered over the whole day today should not serve as decoration. In our minds, the ideas we have should not decorate ourselves as people who know. And or the books that we got should not serve as decoration in our studies at home. But they should serve the future of our country. We must go out here today, colleagues, and institutionalize the national anti-corruption strategy in the church, at the workplace, trade union movement, business, at home, MEC of education, in the classroom. The value systems that we must do. Let's popularize NACS, comrades. Let it not be something that is just known by us. Let the entire society know that we are on this path, the correct one, a noble one, of saving our country. So we are calling on other provinces, I don't know how many there are here, to also convene similar workshops as well. Give us dates. We want to join you as well. Northwest, perfect example. Let's follow on the good path of the Northwest Province. Lastly, we are preparing, this is a build-up to our national dialogue to be hosted by the President of the country. We are still waiting for a date from him. We are struggling to get dates. But all these provincial roadshows are meant to be a culmination, or will culminate into the national dialogue that will be convened at a date after receiving confirmation from the President of the country. Those who always go to court, the law enforcement agencies will know that when the magistrate or the judge enters, somebody would always announce to say, all rise. So I say, though I'm not a judge coming in here, but I think all of us must rise now, as a country, society, to face this monster, to face this cancer. It is monstrous. It kills so many people. Just as we united to fight and destroy an inhuman system of apartheid, not through guns alone, but through resilience and commitment, we can destroy even this cancer of corruption. You can appoint program director, millions of police. You can allocate billions of rands to law enforcement agencies. You can appoint the best advocates, prosecutors. But if society doesn't rise to support law enforcement agencies, all the money the national minister could allocate will not change our situation for the best. Thank you so much. I'm not doing the vote of thanks, but I really appreciate Northwest. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you.
I think it's only appropriate this time to give it up to Northwest Province. Again, thank you very much. That was to Northwest Province, so we give it to, now we give it to our councillor. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1. Thank you very much, Councillor Dolopi, for painting the picture ahead. I think I agree with you, Masikela, to say I want to be there to witness a corrupt-free country. And I'm here to say, send us to ensure that we root it up. We are at the last item, and after which we will sing the national anthem. We are going to pass vote of thanks, but I think it will just be proper for me to thank MEC Viola for thanking me before the vote of thanks is passed. Thank you very much for encouraging me so that I should do a good work. Thank you very much. We are going to call Chief Whip Semesegolo, Matlosana Local Municipality, Councillor Kaya Ndingede. Utlo go refa vote of thanks. And Khasan Tsatla, let me, as a program director, thank you very much for being such a good audience, but also the presenter for having taken time, good time, to put together a presentation that will provoke us to be good citizens, to provoke us to be, go out and rally the whole society to fight against corruption. And I would want to challenge you that out of the 6 pillars of the strategy, just know one. Know it by heart. Know it to a point where you can sit down around the fire and talk about it to ensure that it is being spread. There are 6 of them, but just know one. It would be good if you can know 6 and be able to act upon them, but at least one, you will be able to move with it. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me join the MEC of Education by thanking you, because you were thanked by a woman, now we are thanked by a man. Thank you very much, Program Director. I've got 2 views. One is to join the queue. Another one is madness. But let me start with the madness. The corruption-free society, Comrade Dolopu, as a long-serving Deputy General Secretary of SADU, is a classless society. The only free corrupt society is a classless society. Because the source of corruption is the monopoly capital. So if as a country we don't talk about the monopoly capital, we'll not resolve corruption. If you are driving in South Africa, all our land is privatized, is fenced. How did they get it? We don't know. Okay. I think we must start there if we want to fight against corruption. Secondly, if we want to fight against corruption to restore integrity, we must look at the monopoly capital's integrity in our society. As long as there is inequality in our society, corruption will exist. As long as there is inequality in our society, corruption will exist. Lastly, in my madness, not lastly, central to corruption is not politicians, it's business. Whatever corruption done, there is a business person. So if you want to fight against corruption, you have to deal decisively with business. My last madness is the official working in supply chain. Why are they getting richer more than their salaries? If we're to look at them, if we're to apply lifestyle audit, it must start there. You see, what they did previously was to convince government to remove politicians from interfering to procurement. Now they're exposed because procurement does not affect politicians, it's done by officials. But yet, they are getting rich faster whilst the society is poor. Government must look at that. That was my last madness. Okay, that was my last madness. But the last one, I have been in government now almost for 15 years in local government. I'm used to this committee. I was serving in Dr. KK, there was this anti-corruption engagements. But there were no integration of the anti-corruption forum with our internal systems as government. It was a talk shop. I even said to the speaker, let's calculate how much they eat every meeting. They eat too much. There's meeting, there's eating, there's meeting, there's eating, but there are no success stories. Because you can't come in this platform and say one traffic officer collected 100 rand on the road, therefore it's a success story. We need genuine success stories in fighting against corruption in our country and in the world. Maybe we can look at other countries like China, how they fight corruption, and introduce those things in South Africa. Okay, thank you very much. Let me close that madness. Let me take this opportunity to thank all the organizers, those who work behind the scene. They are the most important ones. Those who work behind the scene for the success of the two-day activities. Because yesterday there was a convoy that I met in Ogni driving to Kuma. I just joined traffic, drive with them. They were going to Kuma because there was an activity yesterday organized. But I hope in that activity, cost containment was applied. And secondly, there is an activity today organized by the organizers. Thank you very much, organizers. You are the most important people because you work behind the scene. Nobody sees you, but you do your work. And thank all the presenters that presented today. You see the advantage of presenting late. Those who have problem of listening skills, they always catch up the late presentation. Forget the previous one and catch up the last one. conclusion is always important. Let me thank the last presenter, because he said, if you don't work for it, don't take it, it's not yours. Okay, you must take, you must eat what you work for. You don't eat that side of the till. Eat what is in your pay slip and finish it, and wait for the end of the month. But don't go to that side of the till. I think the last speaker was trying to say that you are free to eat your salary, but don't eat that side of the till. I must also thank the national leadership or the advisory council, because I was in a way, I was arguing with my comrade at the back there, but Kosana Dolopumos is Satu. Why is he addressed now as a councillor? Because the future general secretary of SATU. Okay, I'm pronouncing something now. But why now is he addressed as a councillor? Okay. Thank you very much, a national leadership appointed by President Ramaphosa. Thank you very much, Premier in absentia, Comrade Honorable Dumile, who presented, of which we support him and we must support him. We must venture in radically and decisive to the private capital in our province. Biggest looters is the monopoly capital, private capital, mining in particular. We have been bribed by 2 clinics, 1 clinic, 1 school, but the rest of money is gone. We have just been used for SLPs, then we are saying, thank you very much, 1 clinic, it cost 5 million. Billions, gone. So if you can confront that as a province, perhaps my view, Comrade Viola, as a leader from another side, is that we must pursue a decentralization of DMR so that provinces can have a say to DMR. Currently, we don't have a say. It's a national department. We must decentralize it. Thank you very much, members of the Executive Council, for your present. Thank you very much, Nikki Wenam, who's calling in Kozana. Thank you very much, you are present. Thank you very much to the Speaker of which I believe that is the most beautiful woman. The Speaker of Matlosana Local Municipality, Stella Mundlana, Gwenya. Thank all the participants, most importantly, all the delegates. Our plea as a city, please, before you leave the city, buy something. If you take N12, get into Matlosana Mall. If you take N12 to Volis, get into Tower Mall. If you take Mamafikeng, get into Dikhan. Please buy something so that we can grow our economy. Thank you very much. You are the most important.
Again, thank you very much. We have come to the end of our event today, but the last announcement is that all delegates will receive their lunch mo Muba, and ke nagana gore ke lunch ko Muba. Ke itana lunch because some of us are still driving. Ake batle gore re drive le gore re tswa ko Muba. We must just have lunch there. And by the way, ke moruti re tla bona Muba later on. And then task team members, media and security, re kopa gore le skala tswa le di delegate lo sale ko breakfast area. We don't want to see you ole task team member ole ko Muba ke di delegate tsa rona na le wena ko ba jang ko teng. Nna ka gore ke hosting ka go ja le bona, but ke tla dula le lona gore ke lo encourage re ba fe chance ya go ja. Task team members remain in breakfast area. I think our ushers will guide you to that area. And then on that note, all of us, we stand on our feet, and just for today, let there be no movement when the national anthem is sung. As the national anthem is rendered, please let us not move in and out. Ushers, please do la mo until the national anthem is being played, and we will sing it together with our DJ there. Over to you, sir. we may go home in peace and safely so.